Once, there's a boy named Miyabi whose dream is to become a captivating architect since his elementary school days. He plays a virtual reality game where he can create ideal buildings. One day, after many attempts, he finally constructs a beautiful building with his own virtual hands in that game. This game gains immense popularity due to its exhilarating battles that win the hearts of dedicated players. Additionally, its vast creative freedom, ranging from furniture design to full-scale construction, attracts crafters from all around the world. The game is called isekai, a world where the concept of turning dreams into reality is brought to life. While Miyabi faces the reality of being a corporate employee, in this game, he can make people happy through his craftsmanship. After all of this, he receives an in-game email from the admin with the titled Guide to a Special World. Upon opening it, he finds words of appreciation for his outstanding architectural creation. As a gesture of gratitude, he's offered a chance to enter this special world. He's presented with two options and chooses the one that allows him to fully immerse himself in crafting. Upon making his choice, he finds himself suddenly teleported from his familiar gaming world to another realm, appearing on the grass before a tree. As he tries to move his hands, he feels a slight dizziness from the teleportation. Hiding behind a tree, he observes a group of people armed with swords attempting to rob a carriage. The carriage is being defended by a girl and her guards as they head towards a town. Miyabi wonders if this is a new game update, as it is looking more realistic and unexpected presence of these characters who shouldn't be in isekai. His mind is filled with confusion about the situation. In the middle of that, his eyes meet the girl's eyes, and he senses that an impending quest might begin if he steps forward. However, he remains confused. Gathering his courage, he steps out before everyone, standing his ground and questioning the attackers. A man with anger in his eyes regards Miyabi as a possible ally and orders his group to attack him. In an instant, the girl, whom Miyabi later learns is named Liz, astonishingly incapacitates everyone using powerful stone projectiles. As she shatters the stones, debris scatters, some of which are headed towards Miyabi at a slower pace. Miyabi is taken aback by the shock of the impact. He thinks, "Can I feel pain? It can't be possible. A game is just a game, there's no way I should feel any pain." However, the sense of reality continues to grow. During this chaos, Liz manages to bind the attackers together with a rope. She assures Miyabi that they will deal with them later and introduces herself. Apologizing for involving him in the conflict, Liz shares her name and explains her action. Miyabi introduces himself and reassures Liz not to worry. He recounts his surprise at the sudden battle. Liz inquires if he's an adventurer, and he chuckles, revealing that he's just a regular civilian. Apologetically, Liz explains her initial confusion, as his impressive armor gives the impression that he might be a fighter. She asks if he's headed to Angelum and offers to take him along. He agrees but asks for some time before leaving. She's fine with that. He tries to remove his headset, but his efforts are in vain. He struggles, catching Liz's attention. Curious, she inquires about his action. He eases up and reminds himself to be cautious and avoid anything that might raise suspicion. So, he goes to gather some wood and stones. A flashback of the email he received comes to him. He had agreed to carry over a portion of his data. He tries to access his inventory using hand gestures as he did in the previous world, but he can't. It dawns on him that things might work differently here, perhaps as simple as mentally invoking the action. He gives it a shot, and to his amazement, the inventory opens up in his mind. Unlike in isekai, where it appeared in a window, here it seems to float within his thoughts. He notices that the rocks and branches he gathered earlier are also present. He attempts to craft a table as a test, feeling a mix of nerves and astonishment at his initial unease with such basic crafting. He feels a surge of joy as the crafting system seems functional here too. Just by thinking about it, he can retrieve a recipe for any item. He realizes that while some aspects are different from the game, the core mechanics feel familiar. With 10 stones and 30 pieces of wood in mind, he visualizes crafting an axe, a versatile tool for chopping wood and a beginner's weapon. He mentally gathers all the required materials and crafted them into a magically appearing axe in his hand. Realization strikes him. He can now craft almost anything, and it will manifest in reality. He dares to dream of a beautiful house and a family, something that seems unattainable in his real life but is now within reach as reality merges with his dreams. These thoughts overwhelm his mind. Returning with a wide grin on his face, Liz notices the pickaxe he holds. She inquires about it and his radiant smile. He simply explains that he crafted it using rocks and branches. Confused, Liz wonders if he can also access his inventory. This puzzles Miyabi, as he has realized she can't do the same. Two guards who are accompanying Liz sarcastically remark that he's a manufacturer and suggest he hire one of them. Another guard speaks laughing, jesting that a crafter wouldn't make that much money. Liz addresses them for their rudeness, while Miyabi assures her it's alright. They apologize, acknowledging their jests. Miyabi questions if crafters are looked down upon here. One guard apologizes, clarifying that he didn't mean to offend. Then, Liz asks if he has collected all the necessary items. He nods, and they proceed towards the town. As they approach, she points towards the city and exclaims, "Look, we can see it now, Angelum." As they reach the city, Miyabi sees a large gate surrounded by numerous guards, which leads him to believe that this must be a significant city. Many guards advance with sturdy armors and spears in hand, causing a startled Miyabi to shout, even though they haven't done anything wrong. Liz reassures him, explaining that this happens frequently. A guard introduces himself as the captain of the squad and expresses gratitude for capturing the bandits. He asks them about the leader of the group, to which Liz raises her hand and identifies herself as the leader due to having the highest ranked card among them. Her card is a C rank, while the others possess D or E ranks. She informs them that there are 5 guards with her and that Miyabi is just a civilian. As the guards inspect her card, Miyabi appears stressed, prompting the guards accompanying Liz to assure him that there's no need to worry, as she can handle the situation. He comments to her that he's surprised by her leadership role, especially considering he didn't expect a girl. However, he follows up by acknowledging her ability to earn the trust of adult adventurers, which he finds impressive. Liz blushes slightly in response. The guard in charge orders his soldiers to take custody of the bandits, and he informs Liz that she'll receive her reward from the Adventurers Guild at a later date. Grateful civilians express their gratitude to her for rescuing the carriage, and the guards who accompanied Liz depart, each going their own way. Miyabi asks Liz that an ID card is required to enter the town. She nods her head and asks him if he has lost it. He jokes with a smile, pointing upwards, implying he never had one. She tells him then he would need to pay for it, and he clarifies that he simply doesn't have any money. He playfully dubs this situation a double miracle of having no ID and no money. Liz motions toward the captain, indicating she wants to discuss something with him. He promptly stops her, after which she tells Miyabi that she doesn't really want to involve the captain. Instead, she grants him a 3-day temporary pass to enter the town, with the suggestion that if he plans to stay longer, he should apply for a permanent ID card at the Adventurers Guild. She even hands him some money and playfully remarks that she's lending it to him, expecting him to pay her back later and adhere to her condition. After saying this, she starts to move away, leaving him standing there and watching her depart. Miyabi reflects, thinking about Liz's 2 conditions. One is to register as an adventurer at the guild, which makes sense given that crafting will require material gathering. The other is likely to prevent him from escaping. These thoughts race through his mind. After a few seconds, Miyabi runs towards Liz and starts following her to reach the guild. Along the way, he sees various stores before finally arriving at their destination. To his confusion, it's an inn. He questions if they weren't going to the Adventurers Guild. Liz explains that he needs a place to sleep first. It's a basic rule for adventurers. As he looks around, he notices heavy luggage everywhere. Liz comments that nice and affordable inns tend to fill up quickly. The lady at the counter informs Miyabi that it's 5 silver coins per night. He hands her a gold coin, admitting he's unfamiliar with currency. She returns him 5 silver coins. Doing some basic math, he understands that 1 gold coin is equal to 10 silver coins. Since staying in a business hotel roughly costs 5,000 yen, 1 gold coin is about 10,000 yen. Doing all these calculations, he lies down on the bed, tired from the day's events. He reflects that being an adventurer is no easy task and he must repay the help he's received. Eventually, he falls asleep. The next day, he wakes up early and heads towards the Adventurer Guild with Liz. Inside, he sees a variety of people. Liz remarks that adventurer guilds are built similarly in every city and asks if it's his first time. He responds with a weird expression that he's familiar with from the game. He explains that he comes from a rural area, so he's impressed by the town. Liz responds with a warning not to get too impressed and wander too far. While talking, they approach a beautiful girl sitting in a chair. Miyabi is stunned by her beauty. Liz initiates the conversation with "I'm back, Eleanor. I'm here to report about the escort request." Eleanor welcomes Liz and advises her to take care as it's getting chilly. She notices Miyabi, who is standing there stunned beside Liz. Quickly regaining his composure, Miyabi introduces himself by bowing his head down. He explains that he's here to register as an adventurer based on Liz's recommendation. Eleanor thanks him for his politeness and introduces herself as Eleanor, a staff member of the Adventurers Guild. Liz watches Miyabi's drama of politeness with an annoyed expression. Eleanor then asks Liz for her adventurer card to check the status of her request. She hands an application form to Miyabi and asks him to fill it out. Reading the heading Adventurer Registration Form, Miyabi decides to read it carefully, considering he's never encountered it before. He realizes that there are 7 ranks, with S being the strongest. The ranks fluctuate based on request evaluations and guild contribution. He also learns that the adventurer card can be used for identification and for depositing the money, the same as a bank card in real life. Contemplating what to write in the terms and conditions, he thinks to himself that adventurers are likely the most civilized people. Liz is a bit shocked by how carefully he's reading everything. Seeing Liz's shocked expression, he reassures her, "Of course, I'll read it." In his mind, he realizes the importance of thoroughly reading contracts to avoid potential future issues, recalling memories of his time as a corporate slave in the real world. She informs him that about 90% of people don't bother reading it. Eleanor expresses gratitude for his diligence in reading through the terms, noting that as an acquaintance of Liz's, he's quite serious. Miyabi thinks to himself that Eleanor must have a hard time, given how rudimentary the terms and conditions are written. Regret fills him as he instantly realizes his mistake. He explains to Liz that he unintentionally wrote it in Japanese. Liz suggests he write supporter in the occupation section. Miyabi is a bit puzzled, and Liz clarifies that for long-term and escort requests, they can hire temporary supporters. He asks if she means the adventurers who work in the background. She assures him that supporters aren't just observers, they do participate in the action. Curious, he asks if it's not easier to leave the fighting to everyone else. Liz responds that it's not the case. She simply prefers to delegate the ongoing tasks to others while she focuses on the main objective. This is where supporters come into play. After discussing this with Liz, he decides to sign up as a supporter. Eleanor thanks him for completing the form and acknowledges their likely exhaustion. Liz, sounding a bit sleepy, says her goodbyes. Now, Eleanor and Miyabi are alone. She hands him his adventurer card and inquires if he possesses a temporary pass. He hands her his pass, and she glances at it, her expression slightly puzzled upon noticing his inventory and producer status. Miyabi, noticing her surprise, asks if it's uncommon for producers to register as adventurers. Eleanor confirms his observation, explaining the distinction between adventurer, commercial, and production guilds. She shares that most production and commercial guilds lack the stamina for adventuring and end up shitting up. Recently, they've been encouraging production guilds to collaborate more. Eleanor offers a piece of advice. She explains that while gathering materials, if he stocks demon meat and valuable parts in his inventory, he can raise their purchase price easily. Miyabi resolves to do his best, gathering a variety of materials and promptly repaying his debt to Liz. He contemplates combining material collection with request fulfillment, effectively killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He asks her about suitable areas for material collection. Eleanor informs him that the east area is relatively safe and emphasizes that it's not restricted to request-only gathering. Miyabi then leaves the guild and heads to the east side to collect some materials. On his way back, he realizes that all the houses look similar and he's lost. He grows frustrated with himself, thinking that being Japanese makes this so difficult. He even forgets the name of the inn he's staying at. With the sun setting, he wonders if Liz is worried about him. He's puzzled by how many times he's walked along this street. In the middle of this confusion, he spots a young girl who appears more like a kid. She has short hair with a tail on her back and a sword hanging from her waist. Miyabi assumes she might be an adventurer due to the sword and decides to approach her. He shows his adventurer card to her, and she responds by showing hers as well. He's surprised to see her card indicating a rank B. He's taken aback that such a young girl holds a higher rank than Liz, who is a rank C. He doubts if this little girl was really that strong. She introduces herself as Mel. Miyabi reflects on his own status, F rank and a lost adventurer. Seeking directions, he asks Mel if she knows the way to the inn. She asks for hints, and he mentions he was standing near the east gate talking to a friend. He admits he didn't pay attention to details. She inquires if the friend was a girl, and he confirms. Mel then offers to lead him, and she points out the correct inn. Miyabi is surprised at her accuracy. She explains that it was easy to figure out since this inn is the only one near the east gate. She adds that it's a safe place for girls to stay, and alcohol is forbidden, making it a secure choice even for lower-ranked adventurers. Miyabi thinks to himself, even low rank, Liz might be considering my safety as well. Grateful, he thanks Mel for her help. She encourages him to do his best as an F rank, and he introduces himself as Miyabi. In response, she says, "Do your best, Miyabi." Wanting to show his gratitude, Miyabi decides it's a good idea to give Mel a little something. He politely asks her if she could spare a moment for him, as he wants to prepare a small gift. Mel agrees with a friendly smile, telling him she's happy to wait. As he ponders what to give, Miyabi realizes he doesn't have much extra money to spare. He figures he could craft something instead. He recalls his virtual crafting skills and opens his inventory in his mind. He takes apart some of the wooden materials he collected earlier, and in no time, he shapes a tiny wooden cat carving. Crafting comes naturally to him after years of practice, and he's satisfied with the result. When he hands the wooden cat to Mel, she seems a bit surprised at first, but her expression quickly changes to one of appreciation. She thanks him for the unexpected gesture and then heads off in another direction. Miyabi feels a sense of accomplishment as he watches her go, knowing he managed to convey his gratitude in some way. After this, he heads back to the inn, going to his bed and sleeps. The next morning, he wakes up to a cold room and steps outside, where he spots Liz wrapped in a blanket too. He greets her with a smile, mentioning how chilly the morning is. Liz agrees, and they both agree that it's quite unusual. Miyabi offers to have breakfast together, and Liz accepts. They find a cozy spot to sit down. He thinks to himself that he should go and take some food while Liz could sit here. So, he goes to fetch their food, and when he hands her a bowl of soup, he notices her cold hands. He remarks on it, and she casually explains that she has poor circulation, which makes her hands feel cold. She contrasts this to the tough mornings during escort quests, where the elements can be unforgiving. Miyabi quickly grasps the comparison. He understands that the warmth and comfort here are a welcome change from the challenges of escort missions that can last for days. Realizing why she needed a supporter, he suggests he could carry extra blankets for her. She playfully says she'd even pay a bit to borrow one, hinting at the discomfort of rainy mornings. With a smile, she jokingly suggests they trade stories about how the ground can take away body heat or how hard a ground can be to sleep on it. Just as their conversation gets deeper into the intricacies of their surroundings, they're distracted by the presence of new escort requests displayed on the board. Liz suggests they put their conversation on hold for now and focus on these new opportunities. As they make their way toward the request board, Miyabi's mind buzzes with curiosity about the forthcoming tasks and the adventures that await them. Miyabi gazes at the request board, realizing that the posted requests are categorized by rank. He notices a section dedicated to rank C and D tasks. The scene around the board is chaotic, with adventurers jostling and pushing to get a closer look. This sight bewilders Miyabi, but Liz offers an explanation. She mentions that those might be F and E rank adventurers competing for the high-paying tasks. Miyabi feels a wave of fear at the thought of becoming a solo adventurer and resolves to stick close to Liz. Watching as Liz walks towards the request board, Miyabi observes her closely. She comments on the disorganized state of the request papers. Miyabi inwardly admires her capability. She selects a paper, taking her time to consider her choice. Miyabi asks her about the request, and Liz informs him that it is about eliminating ground sheep. He looks at the paper and notices the increased rewards for the task. Confused, he asks why the rewards are higher despite the simple name of the request. Liz responds that, strangely, not many adventurers take it on. Miyabi realizes that the current reward stands at 45 gold coins, a substantial amount. He expresses his concern that it might be difficult, but Liz reassures him, mentioning she has taken down some of these creatures before. Still, she anticipates it will take a few days to complete. Their interaction is interrupted by a boy who approaches Liz with another request paper. He suggests an alternative option, but Liz is firm in her decision and sticks to her original choice. Together, they head to Eleanor to kickstart the chosen request. Excitedly, Miyabi comments to Liz about her admiration for Eleanor. However, before he can finish his sentence, Liz cuts him off with an annoyed shout, making it clear he shouldn't say such things. She playfully suggests that he wants to be sent off by a beautiful person, but she thinks it's a wish an old man might have. Then, she shifts the conversation, describing their dynamic as that of an elder sister sending off her younger sister. Miyabi expresses his dissatisfaction, claiming it's even worse. With their banter exchanged, they approach Eleanor. Upon reaching Eleanor, she takes a look at the request paper for eliminating ground sheep. She offers a word of caution, advising them to watch out for the sheep's assault attacks. Liz informs Eleanor that she might not be able to visit the guild frequently due to the time-consuming nature of the request. Eleanor explains the rationale behind increasing the reward. C-rank adventurers have attempted the task before and struggled. She then directs her words to Miyabi, as it's his first request, urging them to do their best without overdoing it. She concludes with well wishes for their success. Miyabi, touched by Eleanor's words and smile, understands Liz's sentiment. Her encouraging words motivate him to work more effectively. He thanks Eleanor softly for her support and, accompanied by Liz, moves on. Annoyingly, Liz comments that now he's trying to act cool in front of Eleanor, teasing him for having an old man mindset. Continuing their journey, they make their way to the Western Plains where the task needs to be done. Along the way, they stop to rest for a bit. Liz is amazed by how much energy Miyabi has. Even though he's a producer, he's not showing any signs of being tired. She's impressed by his ability to keep going like a real adventurer. Miyabi explains that he might have some special gear that helps him have more energy and not get too tired. He says it's because producers usually work a lot, so they need something to help them not get too worn out. Liz finds this surprising since most magicians don't have such equipment. She talks about how she doesn't want to ask for a break because she doesn't want to cause problems for others. But sometimes, she pushes herself really hard to build up her energy. Miyabi says it's important to take breaks to stay safe, even if it's hard to ask for them. Liz agrees, saying it's not easy to ask for a break when she's the only one who feels tired. She explains that everyone wants to finish their work before the city gates close at sunset. If they don't make it back in time, they'll have to sleep outside. Miyabi can't help but feel a pang of familiarity, comparing it to the life of a salaryman who works late and misses the last train. He reflects on his past life, where he would miss the train and have to walk home. However, he realizes that despite the inconveniences, his current life is a blessing. There are no irritating customer complaints or demanding bosses in this world. Lost in thought, he doesn't notice Liz calling his name repeatedly. Liz's loud shout snaps him back to reality. She's found the ground sheep they're looking for. Miyabi is startled, mistaking a deer for the ground sheep. He points out that the ground sheep looks like a deer. Liz corrects him, explaining that the real ground sheep are farther away. Miyabi is dumbfounded as he turns around. He spots them, muscular-looking creatures with strong horns. There are a few of them, nibbling on crops. Liz explains the challenge with these creatures is their high intelligence and their tendency to team up. Some even say they prefer targeting magicians at the rear of the group. He thinks to himself that undoubtedly, the presence of such creatures wandering around freely might be the reason for the roadblocks. She tells him that they need to stay a good distance away from them for now and approach them when they're isolated. She adds that if you get charged like that, you won't have a chance. They start walking away from the creatures. As they move away, Miyabi turns to Liz and asks if the monsters hurt anyone else besides adventurers. Liz replies thankfully that it doesn't seem so, but these creatures make it really hard for the village people around here. Their constant wandering makes it tough for villagers to get supplies. So, she emphasizes that they can't afford to fail this request. She reminds Miyabi that even though he's a supporter, he needs to stay sharp and avoid causing any problems. Miyabi inquires if there's anything else he should be aware of aside from their charging attacks. Liz explains that there's nothing particularly special, but he should never underestimate them. Despite relying mainly on their charging attack, these monsters are incredibly strong and dangerous. In terms of danger, this task might be ranked as high as A or B. She scolds him, sensing that he might be underestimating the monsters. Liz continues that these creatures will keep attacking until they're severely injured. In other words, as long as he doesn't land a fatal blow, they won't back down. Miyabi's thoughts race as he ponders if that means they're relentless attackers and they can't even stop themselves from attacking. Liz looks confused by his expression, prompting him to explain himself. In his mind, he realizes they might be vulnerable to surprise attacks. He crafts a stone shovel in his mind using 10 pieces of wood and 50 small stones. As he holds the shovel, Liz gives him a confused look and questions his intention. Miyabi reveals his plan. He's going to dig a pitfall. Liz finds this approach ridiculous and tries to explain that demons aren't that simple to fool. If they were easily trapped by pitfalls, everyone would be out there digging holes. Plus, they don't have time to dig a giant hole, and the demons would catch on if it takes too long. Within minutes, Miyabi digs deep pit holes in all 4 directions, forming a square shape. Liz is astonished by his speed and asks him incredulously if he used to be a mole in his past life. Miyabi continues his work, crafting planks to cover the pits and scattering grass on top. In just 10 minutes, he creates deep pits covered with planks and grass. Liz stands there, utterly shocked, unable to distinguish the pitfall from the ground. She remains stunned and comments that when done with magic, the result might look slightly different. Miyabi takes the opportunity to explain the key differences between a pitfall and the ground. After Miyabi explains the difference to Liz, she chuckles and blushes, saying she can clearly distinguish the ground from the pitfall now. Miyabi grins proudly, cautioning her to be careful, as one more step and she'd end up in the pitfall. Curiously, she asks him about their next move. Miyabi suggests that if they attract the ground sheep's attention, the creatures might come after them on their own. Liz hesitates, a bit anxious about being the bait for the ground sheep. She worries that it might backfire and result in something absurd. However, trusting Miyabi's plan, she decides to give it a shot, believing they stand a chance of success. With a flick of her magic, Liz hurls a stone bullet toward the ground sheep. The creatures react with anger and immediately start running towards the two of them. Liz's fear grows as the ground sheep charge toward them. Miyabi tries to reassure her, expressing complete confidence in his plan. However, Liz responds angrily and with fear, questioning how she's supposed to remain calm in such a situation. The ground sheep approach closer, and as they step onto the planks, they fall right into the pitfall. Liz is stunned by how effortlessly they tumble into the trap, while Miyabi stands there, proudly observing. Miyabi goes on to explain the mechanics of a pitfall to Liz, describing how it drops enemies into the hole without them realizing. Liz, still a bit frustrated, admits she's aware of how it works, but she didn't expect the ground sheep to fall for it so easily. Miyabi continues, watching the creatures in the pitfall, explaining that though it's a simple setup, the deeper the hole, the greater the fall's impact. Falling from this height would usually render them unable to continue fighting. Miyabi's clever idea finally paid off, and they succeeded in trapping the ground sheep in the pitfall. Liz remains in awe of the fact that Miyabi managed to trap those dangerous demons in a pitfall he crafted and dug in just a matter of minutes. With a shocked expression, she asks him incredulously, "Who are you, really?" In response, Miyabi chuckles and flashes a victory sign with his hand, expressing his happiness about their victorious and injury-free outcome. Liz then brings up a matter she wants to discuss later, asking if he will be willing to listen. Miyabi playfully teases about the importance of the topic, noting that they have only known each other for 2 days. Annoyed, Liz clarifies that it isn't a love confession but rather a discussion about the pitfall and her desire to learn more about it. Liz summons even stronger magic energy, and Miyabi tells her that since the ground sheep are already weakened, a less intense spell could defeat them. But Liz reveals that she can't make herself do that. Instead, she casts a spell that launches icy javelins at the ground sheep, quickly ending their lives. Liz blushes a bit and admits that it feels weird to finish them off so easily, almost like it's too simple for her. Miyabi steps in and employs his inventory to stow away the complete ground sheep, causing Liz to be completely surprised by his skill. Confused, she asks how he accomplishes this action. Miyabi responds calmly, clarifying that since he's a supporter, it's his responsibility to transport the vanquished monster. Liz stays surprised, admitting that Miyabi is truly capable as a supporter. However, she can't resist wondering if he ended up with a lot of soil on himself from all the digging. She expresses her astonishment at the remarkable adaptability of his inventory, which can even hold the bulky ground sheep. Miyabi explains that his inventory is just a storage space, but Liz is curious about how much it can hold. He shares that he's only used around 1% of his inventory capacity so far. Liz finds the whole concept of an inventory system confusing, so she asks if they can move on from that topic. Miyabi goes into more detail, linking crafting skills and daily gathering to how much you can carry in your inventory. He makes a comparison with isekai, where having higher levels and collecting things regularly can make your inventory space grow. He wonders out loud if the same idea works in this world. Exploring further, he explains that in isekai, higher skill levels and regular gathering lead to a capacity akin to a walking warehouse. This is known as an aptitude skill, though it is rare among serious crafters. Liz, however, looks confused and overwhelmed by the information. Miyabi questions whether the situation in this world differs from the game. Liz's disappointed nod conveys that things aren't quite the same. A hint of sadness appears on Liz's face as she shares her worries about how people view crafters in this world. She apologizes if her words hurt Miyabi and goes on to explain that crafters here aren't thought of very highly. They mostly make cheap furniture and do repairs, and that means they don't earn much money. Learning this makes Miyabi feel for the crafters, understanding how tough it must be for them in this new place. Liz adds more details, explaining that crafters in this world encounter problems when trying to collect materials on their own. Even when they get help, their inventory space gets used up fast. And for crafters who aren't experts, going out to gather materials every day can be really hard. Miyabi listens, his face showing his surprise at the tough situation that crafters face in this new world. Miyabi has a big realization about how different things are for crafters in this world. He understands that these crafters can't really go outside to gather materials or level up their skills like he could in the game. It makes him feel sad for them, but he also knows he can't fix this problem all by himself. Miyabi then says that making money isn't really hard, no matter what kind of job you do. He gives an example of how Liz has to deal with the cold during escort mission. Liz agrees with what he says, and then they decide to stop talking about that because the conversation is starting to get boring. Miyabi then changes the subject and asks Liz for a favor. He wants to know if he can keep the wool from the ground sheep they defeated. Liz says that's fine, and she explains that the guild usually only keeps the main parts and throws away the wool. Miyabi thinks this might be because it's difficult to bring back the whole sheep. He thanks her for letting him have it. While they talk, he begins to take apart the materials they collected. He separates the useful things like horns for medicines, claws and bones for armors and weapons, and even the meat that they can eat. Liz is really happy about this and thinks it might make them a lot of money. After their talk about the materials, Miyabi mentions that he hasn't taken a proper bath in a while. He hopes that in the future they can stay in an inn with a hot spring. Liz tells him that even having warm water is already good enough. They are quiet for a moment, but then Liz speaks up again. She tells Miyabi that she wants to keep working with him and that their partnership should continue, even if he pays her back the money. Miyabi thinks maybe she wants him to help her hunt more demons for a better inn, but he agrees and says he wants to keep working together too. They shake hands to seal the deal. Liz jokes that she doesn't want to be the one cleaning up the mess, and Miyabi laughs and says he's looking forward to working with her more. Liz apologizes if she's too straightforward, but Miyabi says it's okay and that they both feel the same way. After their talk, they head back to the guild. When they get there, Eleanor, the guild leader, is surprised to see them. She asks if they've finished their task already. Liz steps forward and explains that they were able to complete it because they split up during the mission. Miyabi whispers to her that she could have told Eleanor they defeated all the monsters at once. Liz whispers back that she still wants to keep some pride as an adventurer. Eleanor seems really happy and says that being lucky also means you're strong. She wants some proof of what they did, so Liz blushes a little and says they haven't taken apart the monsters yet. She asks if they can use the room for that. Before Liz can even move, Miyabi shows that he's already taken apart the materials. He uses a gesture to show Eleanor the horns, claws, and meat from the ground sheep. Eleanor is surprised but impressed. Miyabi laughs and says sorry for putting everything on her table, and Eleanor says it's fine and they'll look at the materials right away. She asks them to wait for a little bit while they check everything. Eleanor gathers more people, and they all look surprised as they see the counter loaded with meat. They're clearly amazed and can hardly believe their eyes. This much meat is totally new to them. Eleanor signals for even more people to come over, realizing that the first group isn't enough. More and more folks gather around, and Miyabi comments to Liz that ground sheep meat seems quite popular. Liz explains that it's considered a healthy and light kind of meat, even suitable for women. She adds that they'll freeze the meat as they has brought it in 3 hours to keep it safe to eat without cooking. Miyabi realizes that Liz also likes ground sheep meat. She playfully pinches him and insists she wants to keep some for herself, asking him not to sell one portion of it. She says she likes the meat, but she prefers it cooked. Eleanor thanks them for this and bows to show she's grateful. First, she pays them 45 gold coins for finishing the escort request. Then, she says they want to buy the horns and nails for 70 gold coins as they are in suitable and good condition. When they add the meat, it becomes a total of 85 gold coins. This is way more money than Liz and Miyabi expected, a whopping 200 gold coins. Both Liz and Miyabi are left speechless by this unexpected fortune. Liz starts a conversation about sharing the money. She suggests a 3-to-7 split, where Miyabi gets 30% for his supporting role. However, Miyabi is surprised and a little annoyed, thinking that 30% is more than enough for his help. Liz strongly disagrees, saying that his role was super important and he deserves more recognition. This leads to a strong discussion between them. Miyabi jokingly asks if agreeing to her terms would make him a mole, a word Liz used earlier. Eleanor, not understanding, asks about the word, and Liz just brushes it off. Liz keeps saying that Miyabi has really helped a lot and should get more credit. Miyabi suggests splitting the rewards 6-4, but Liz doesn't agree and sticks to her point. Miyabi lightens the mood by comparing their discussion to bargaining at a market. Finally, Liz comes up with a fair compromise. They should split the rewards equally, 5-5, which means they both are equal. Miyabi agrees, though he's still not completely sure if he deserves that much. Liz smiles and assures him that if she's okay with it, then it's all good. With their little disagreement sorted, they keep walking happily, looking forward to finding a better inn. As they continue walking, Liz guides Miyabi to a new inn, where the cost for one customer is 2 gold coins per night. Liz emphasizes that it's an essential expense. She urges Miyabi to come along, but he seems puzzled as he gazes at the inn's beautiful interior. Bewildered, he asks her where they're headed. Liz's response is to the hot spring. After arranging the rent for a week's stay, Miyabi realizes that upgrading from a basic hotel to a luxury one is a pain in the pocket. Despite Liz's urging to hurry to the hot spring, Miyabi has another plan in mind. He expresses his desire to do some shopping instead. Liz questions his decision, wondering what about the hot spring. Miyabi responds that he wants to warm up first and will visit the hot spring later. Liz accepts his choice, saying it's okay if that's what he wants. As Miyabi heads to the market, he begins his search for items to improve their daily life, mainly food and other necessities. At a store, he finds edible items. With a clear gesture, he points from one side of the display to the other, indicating his interest in purchasing everything within that range. He inquires about the cost, but the shopkeeper initially thinks he's joking and suggests he should do window shopping somewhere else. Undeterred, Miyabi takes out 10 gold coins and asks if that would be enough. The shopkeeper and onlookers are taken aback by this unexpected move. In a rush, the shopkeeper assures him that it's more than enough and offers to pack the items. However, Miyabi surprises them again by saying he doesn't need the items to be wrapped, he'll store them in his inventory instead. The shopkeeper marvels, remarking, "What an amazing inventory." With a piece of bread in his mouth, Miyabi leaves the shop after spending around 35 gold coins, still having 49 left in his pocket. While contemplating his spending, Miyabi realizes that even though he's used a lot of money, it's all temporary. However, he thinks of it as an investment. One more thing remains on his list, and he heads to a blacksmith shop. There, he notices a sharp-looking knife and compares it to the stone axe he previously made. Behind the counter stands a tall, healthy man with crossed arms and a full beard. Asks Miyabi if he is the producer. Miyabi's gaze lingers on the man before him, registering a mix of surprise and curiosity. He doesn't hold back his question, inquiring whether the man is the skilled craftsman of this establishment. He's also intrigued about how this stranger managed to guess his identity as a producer. The man's response carries a casual air as he suggests that Miyabi turn around. He imparts a thoughtful insight that weapons are tools meant to be used, emphasizing the importance of weight and the tactile experience when wielding them. He playfully remarks that those who would examine a weapon with an appreciative grin are either passionate weapon enthusiasts or fellow craftsmen. Miyabi finds himself momentarily caught off guard and quickly offers an apology for his unintentional grin. Responding with an air of amusement, the man questions Miyabi, "Why are you apologizing?" He conveys that even he, as a fellow craftsman, inspects weapons forged by others as a common practice. He assures Miyabi that there's no need for concern. Grateful for the understanding, Miyabi opens up about his intention to procure a knife for self-defense and inquire if he could potentially sell some iron ore. The man's curiosity piques, and he queries Miyabi about his name. Miyabi introduces himself and explains that he is both a crafter and a supporter. Following this brief introduction, the man introduces himself as Weiss, the third generation of the blacksmithing lineage. Weiss acknowledges his surprise at learning that crafters are now creating weapons, and he openly admires this shift in the craft. Weiss becomes intrigued and wants to see one of Miyabi's crafted weapons. Miyabi hands over his stone axe, mentioning that he wonders if it is too primitive to be taken seriously. But Weiss surprises him by showing real interest in the stone axe, finding its simplicity appealing. Weiss suggests that they go to another room, where there are many boxes filled with iron ore. This surprises Miyabi, as he's never seen so much iron ore in one place before, not even in the game. Weiss selects a box of iron ore, into which Miyabi says that it is enough. Miyabi feels grateful for this and thanks him. Curious about the price, Miyabi raises the question of how much Weiss might ask for the iron ore. Weiss, with a cheerful demeanor, brushes off the notion, stating that there's no charge attached to it. He elaborates, explaining that Miyabi's ingenious act of crafting an stone axe is a form of payment in itself. Weiss further acknowledges that he's well aware of Miyabi's financial situation, understanding that funds are limited. In response, Miyabi expresses his aspiration to be frugal, while also mentioning that he does possess some money if the need arises to pay for the materials. Responding to this, Weiss kindly advises Miyabi against placing too much strain on himself, offering the advice to simply accept the iron ore as a gift. He emphasizes the point that Miyabi is at the initial stages of his crafting journey, suggesting that he should be kind to himself and not overly concerned about finances. Thus, Weiss encourages Miyabi to embrace the assistance without hesitation. Transitioning to a more serious tone, Weiss crosses his arms and makes a candid request. He asks Miyabi to show him a weapon forged from the iron ore he's been granted. He's genuinely intrigued by the prospect of seeing the outcome of Miyabi's craftsmanship. Miyabi's inner thoughts churn as he contemplates his next move. He contemplates the idea of creating a quality Jingdasuken, a type of weapon, but he decides against revealing his plan to Weiss, considering the man's generosity. Miyabi sets his intention to craft something that he'll be proud to present to Weiss, even if it takes time to achieve. In an instant, he employs his crafting skills to create a stove using 20 iron ores and 20 cobblestones, completing the task with remarkable efficiency. While this unfolds, Weiss's attention turns to the stone axe Miyabi had previously crafted. Weiss's disbelief lingers as he contemplates how someone could use such a basic tool to fell a tree. Eventually, they both exit the blacksmith shop, the encounter leaving an imprint on Miyabi's mind. As he steps back into the streets, he finds himself a bit disoriented, yet this time he holds onto the name of his current inn. He navigates the path ahead, and to his pleasant surprise, he encounters Mel once more. Their eyes lock, and a playful comment escapes Mel's lips, teasing Miyabi about being lost F rank once again. Miyabi's eyes light up with recognition. He sees Mel as a lifeline in his current state of confusion. In a voice tinged with a mix of humility and urgency, he makes a heartfelt plea for her guidance, earnestly requesting that she show him the way. Mel's eyebrows furrow in a blend of curiosity and amusement as she inquires whether he's truly lost yet again. Miyabi explains his situation, highlighting that he's moved to a new lodging called Furatii. Mel's expression reflects her surprise as she absorbs this information, considering that she, too, is staying at the same inn. With a reassuring gesture, Mel gently grasps Miyabi's shirt, her amused smile evident as she playfully agrees to be his guide. As they embark on their journey together, Mel's presence offers Miyabi both a source of navigation and a sense of togetherness in the middle of the unfamiliar streets. After walking for a few minutes, their journey comes to an end as they reach the inn. Miyabi's face lights up with happiness, clearly showing how pleased he is to have arrived. Overflowing with gratitude, he reaches out and holds onto Mel's hands, his excitement spilling over as he calls out her name with genuine enthusiasm. In his heart, he feels the need to offer her a gift as a token of appreciation for her consistent help. Mel, wearing a slightly annoyed expression, responds with a knowing nod, indicating that she was well aware of his intention. Patiently, she waits, observing Miyabi's bubbling excitement with a gentle smile. Miyabi, eager to showcase his crafting talents and convey his gratitude, sets about his work using the materials he had acquired. By merging the power of magic with the delicacy of needlework, he masterfully fashions a delightful cat figurine that brings a touch of whimsy to the moment. The people watching are really interested in what Miyabi is doing with his magical crafting. They gather around with excitement, making the whole situation feel like an unplanned and magical show. At first, Miyabi made a simple and cute cat figurine that everyone liked. But then he does something even cooler. He uses magic to cover the cat with soft ground sheep wool, showing everyone how magical crafting can be. The end result is a super charming and fluffy cat that looks really soft and shiny. Both Mel and the people watching are amazed by how lovely it turned out, especially because it happened in just a few seconds. Mel's face lights up with happiness when Miyabi gives her the fluffy cat as a way of saying thank you. She hugs the gift with real gratitude and says thank you, Miyabi, in a soft and warm voice. Miyabi is really surprised by Mel's happy response and her ability to remember his name. Seeing how much she likes the crafted cat, he realizes that his gift has made a positive impression. While he's having this interaction with Mel, he notices that Liz is also there. She gives him a friendly welcome when he returns and asks him about the reason for the earlier excitement among the people. Miyabi doesn't take the question too seriously and changes the topic, wanting to know if Liz has taken a dip in the hot spring since he left. Liz's face turns a bit red, and she shares that she has actually gone to the hot spring 3 times and is really enjoying herself. Liz playfully touches his face with her finger, feeling that he's cold due to the cold weather. She's worried about him and reminds him that taking care of himself is an important part of being an adventurer. Miyabi is lost in thought, thinking about how Liz is acting so nice and grown up. But suddenly, Liz says his name, snapping him out of his daydreaming. He feels a bit guilty for letting his mind wander like that, especially because Liz is younger than him. He tells himself he shouldn't be thinking like that. He agrees with Liz when she tells him to go to the hot spring. Liz's mood changes a bit as she playfully complains, telling him to be careful and look after himself. After conversing with Liz, Miyabi decides to unwind by taking a soak in the hot spring. Following the relaxing bath, he heads to his bed and slips into slumber. The following morning brings a fresh start as both Liz and Miyabi exchange greetings and prepare for the day ahead. They make their way to the Adventurers Guild, where Liz takes Miyabi along to pursue the requests on the board. She remarks that none of the available requests seem promising, speculating that the previous night's rain might have influenced the option. She reads out some unfamiliar names before suggesting they avoid camping in muddy areas due to the rain. This prompts Miyabi to ask about their plans for the day. Liz turns her gaze towards Miyabi, her lips curling into a smile as she proposes an idea. She suggests they gather the materials he had been hoping for together. The mere mention of gathering fills Miyabi with excitement, and his energy and enthusiasm immediately rise. Liz guides him to the oak cypress area, and as they arrive, Miyabi can't help but exclaim with glee, "This is lumber heaven." Liz is taken aback by his infectious energy. It's as if a switch was flipped, and he became a whirlwind of enthusiasm as soon as they set foot there. Observing Miyabi's fervor, Liz listens as he explains that the concept of gathering is irresistible to crafters and that this area is especially enticing due to its diverse array of trees. Miyabi notes how each tree is distinct, with varying characteristics such as shade, sheen, and texture, offering ample crafting potential. Liz, however, finds herself rather uninterested in the specifics of gathering. She encourages Miyabi to collect whatever he needs but cautions him to avoid excessive logging, as the noise of falling trees can attract demons. With determination, Miyabi takes up the task of chopping down a tree and skillfully places it into his inventory, a swift motion that catches Liz's attention. At the faintest sound, he glances at Liz, who promptly awakens from a momentary slumber. Apologizing for her brief nap, she brushes off her drowsiness and regains alertness. Lightening the atmosphere, Miyabi humorously attributes his rapid tree storage to his crafter skill activation, sparking a fit of laughter from Liz. She good-naturedly counters his assertion, highlighting the impossibility of a whole tree vanishing into an inventory. Her laughter carries a sense of relief, signaling that her earlier drowsy state was just a fleeting dream. Detecting a subtle hint of potential danger, Liz takes precaution by activating her protective ward, a testament to her readiness to confront any possible threats. Meanwhile, Miyabi realizes that his trusty stone axe has reached the end of its durability. Reflecting on his situation, he ponders the possibility of crafting an iron axe, though he acknowledges the scarcity of iron ore in this location. Liz calls out to Miyabi, signaling that once he finishes with the tree, they should relocate. Liz explains that due to the forest being inhabited by various demons, a large-scale logging operation can upset the ecosystem if trees are only cut from one side. Miyabi finds himself puzzled by this, remarking that he can't just act without considering the consequences, unlike in a game. Liz elaborates that such concerns are not unusual and are, in fact, governed by the country's regulation. In response, Miyabi playfully sticks out his tongue, trying to imitate a cute expression, to which Liz retorts that his antics aren't quite charming. Their conversation is halted abruptly as Liz senses something amiss. Acting swiftly, she employs her magical prowess, casting ice needles to eliminate a threatening wolf. Miyabi is surprised by its size, prompting Liz to inform him that it's one of the smaller ones. Impressed by her combat skills, Miyabi admits he hadn't even noticed its approach. Liz teases him, attributing her awareness to experience. She then points out another direction, noting the presence of another wolf, although this one poses no immediate threat. Miyabi, somewhat terrified, asks Liz to refrain from sharing scary details, adopting a mildly annoyed expression. Liz, undeterred, instructs him to look in the indicated direction rather than continuing the conversation. Miyabi has a surprising trick up his sleeve. He tucks a wolf into his inventory before they set off. As they move along, Liz notices the damp ground and suggests they find a better spot to rest and eat. She prefers sitting on roots to avoid the wetness. Miyabi grins and uses his crafting skills again, leaving Liz baffled by his action. In an instant, he creates a gazebo right before her eyes. This shocks Liz, making her wonder if she's dreaming. To add to the magic, he fashions a cozy blanket and hands her a cushion. Overwhelmed, tears well up in her eyes. She never imagined crafting could be this extraordinary. Liz happily sinks into the soft cushion, feeling warm and comfy. She says she could not believe that her butt is not hurting with this cushion. She's a bit tired from the journey, and the cozy blanket makes her want to doze off. She jokes that falling asleep might invite mischievous demons to join them, which makes her smile. Miyabi chuckles at her playful worry but then seems a bit annoyed and tells her to stay awake so they don't share their meal with any demons. He's got a practical plan in mind. They need to cook something delicious and quickly. He uses his skills to make a cooking stove appear. The fire starts crackling, warming up the place and adding to the magical setting. Miyabi turns his attention to Liz, thinking of asking her to light the fire. But, oh surprise! Liz is already snoozing cozily under the soft blanket. No problem, though, Miyabi has a clever trick up his sleeve. He quickly conjures up a special fire, just like the magic he's wielding in the game isekai. With a little bit of his magical energy, the fire starts to blaze warmly. However, in his hurry to get the fire going, he accidentally touches a hot part and yelps in surprise. His hand gets a little burnt from the sudden heat. Not the best way to start, but at least the fire is crackling away. Ready to cook up something really yummy, Miyabi gets to work on making jinjisukani. He's like a wizard in the kitchen, bringing out all kinds of ingredients and putting them on the table. There's ground sheep, which is like minced meat, lots of different veggies, soft milk bread, and a creamy milk to drink. And just to top it all off, there's also some black tea to sip. He gently wakes Liz up, and as she opens her eyes, she's met with an amazing sight. The table is covered with all these delicious things, and it's making her eyes widen in surprise. Liz isn't wasting any time. She takes a bite, and her face totally changes. She can't believe how tasty it is, and she's even more surprised that it doesn't smell weird like she might have expected. The vegetables actually make the whole thing even better. She tells Miyabi that this is some of the best food she's ever had. Miyabi's curious too, so he tries to bite himself. Liz isn't kidding, it's really, really good. The meat is bursting with flavor, and he's probably never tasted anything quite like it. As Liz bites into her bread, she exclaims that it tastes different from before, praising the delightful sweetness of the milk and the bread's remarkable fluffiness. Miyabi finds himself a bit puzzled by her comment, but then he reveals that he crafted this bread himself. Liz is clearly impressed and playfully quips that he should make more of it next time. She suggests they buy some flour for future batches. However, Miyabi surprises her with a knowing smirk, revealing that he had already bought flour during his previous shopping trip. Liz is taken aback, astonished by his foresight. Following this, they spend more time together as the day edges towards sunset. Engaged in conversation, they walk back together. Liz expresses her enjoyment of the day and asks Miyabi if he had fun as well. Miyabi wholeheartedly agrees, attributing the enjoyable experience to Liz's guidance and assistance. Puzzled, Liz doesn't see how she played a significant role. Miyabi explains that he couldn't have detected demons on his own and that he was unaware of the logging rules. He lauds Liz's expertise and considers her a true professional. Miyabi shares that he managed to store 2 wolves and 1 mad boar in his inventory today. Liz chuckles at his exaggeration, but Miyabi emphasizes that crafting and gathering fulfill his desires. Eating delicious food and experiencing such adventures are what he had always yearned for. Mentioning dreams grabs Liz's attention, and she looks up at the sky. Miyabi asks if she's ever had a dream. With a touch of uncertainty, Liz asks him not to make fun of her, and he assures her that he won't. She opens up about her dream. She wants to become an A-rank adventurer and create her own magic to help many people. Encouragingly, Miyabi praises her goal and believes she can make it come true, especially after seeing her assistance today. Liz hesitates, feeling a bit far from her rank dream. She admits she has intermediate-level magic skills for now, but self-doubt dims her determination. Her voice turns sad, and her eyes get teary as she concludes that becoming an A-rank adventurer seems like an impossible feat for a magician like her. Miyabi observes the sadness in Liz's expression and feels compelled to encourage her. He reassures her, expressing his belief in her potential to become an A-rank adventurer. To emphasize his point, he points to a group of adventurers walking a few yards ahead of them, their appearances marred by mud. He narrates a story about their challenging journey through a muddy forest to complete a request, highlighting the difficulty of their battle against a demon. Even the archer, who should have been at the rear, ended up stained with mud due to the intense fight. Liz listens with curiosity, wondering where Miyabi is going with this. Continuing with his storytelling, Miyabi lets his imagination roam as he envisions a group of adventurers chatting about their predicament. He playfully imitates their possible dialogues, suggesting they might be joking about whether to wash their mud-stained belongings in the river or just wait until they get to the city for some freshening up. Liz finds his imitation amusing, and a faint smile tugs at the corners of her lips. Miyabi is quick to clarify that this playful scene is entirely made up, a product of his creative musings. Yet, he leverages this imaginative scenario to illustrate a point: the outcome of their quest could have taken a much worse turn. He adds that in such conditions, some adventurers might have decided not to pursue the request at all, considering the challenging weather and the state of their group. With a relaxed tone, he muses about the reliability of various adventurers and slyly alludes to Liz's own willingness to assist, even financially if needed. He continues by addressing Liz's self-doubt, mentioning that defining herself as having intermediate-level magic shouldn't be the reason to give up. Liz responds with a hint of frustration, asserting that she never intended to give up. She acknowledges the significance of strength while underscoring that it's not the only factor contributing to success. As their laughter echoes in the air, the atmosphere lightens. Suddenly, Liz hurries off to the other side, requesting that Miyabi wait for a moment. Baffled, he observes as Liz approaches another female adventurer, her intent being to provide comfort to the girl adventurer who appeared to be feeling down. Miyabi and Liz have been embarking on quests for several days. During his sleep, Miyabi often dreams about being inside a blacksmith shop with many crystals in there. Conversely, Liz's dreams involve indulging in delicious food, and she humorously imagines herself gaining weight from consuming the crafted dishes Miyabi makes. She genuinely enjoys Miyabi's culinary creation. One day, in the midst of a request, Miyabi swiftly prepares a lunch of grilled fish on the table. Liz's face lights up with a smile. She never expected to enjoy a freshly cooked meal like this in the middle of a task. She shares that typically, during their travels, they opt for regular food to avoid attracting demons with the aroma of delectable meals. She admires Miyabi's talent for creating new and tasty dishes on a daily basis, even in between their quests. As she playfully teases him about his cooking skills, she admits that she doesn't want to return to her previous life. Miyabi reassures her that there's no need for her to do so. Upon completing their latest request, they return to the guild and approach Eleanor. Expressing her gratitude, Eleanor acknowledges their hard work and observes that they appear to be growing accustomed to working together as a team. Miyabi mentions that he has spent 2 weeks in this world and extends his thanks to Liz for consistently selecting the most reasonable requests. Liz blushes in response and counters, suggesting that his capacity to carry a significant number of items every day plays a role in their success. She admits that even today, she had a lot of fun. Eleanor enjoys watching them happily converse about each other right in front of her. She directs Liz's attention towards her increased smiles lately. Miyabi jokingly suggests that it might be because of their first meeting, although Liz has been annoyed with him frequently. Eleanor joins in teasing Liz, suggesting that her annoyance might stem from caring about Miyabi a lot. Annoyed, Liz exclaims Eleanor's name. Eleanor playfully addresses her as if speaking to a baby, claiming that she's getting upset. In his thoughts, Miyabi realizes that Eleanor's attention on Liz goes beyond mere admiration, but now he understands that Liz's feelings for him are genuine. Eleanor examines the recent request papers and comments on their focus on gathering-related tasks. Miyabi acknowledges her observation, and Eleanor proposes the idea of attempting a new request. Liz responds seriously that she will consider it. In his mind, Miyabi feels content that Liz still cares for him. He resolves to support her dream, knowing that Liz is avoiding long-term requests to keep him from harm. With a determination to assist Liz, he acknowledges her aspiration and doesn't want to stand in the way of her goals. While pondering these thoughts, Liz asks about Miyabi's plans for their free time after completing the request. Miyabi agrees and states his intention to practice enchantment. Liz mentions her plan to study magic. Miyabi, concerned for her, firmly advises Liz to take a rest. Liz points out that he's also planning to work on enchantment rather than resting. Miyabi explains that he considers it a hobby. Liz counters that studying magic is her half-hobby. They exchange playful angry looks and then share a laughter-filled moment before setting off to work. Completely absorbed in his enchantment task, Miyabi's full attention is on holding onto the enchanted fire. This task is known to be one of the trickiest in the world of isekai. He's putting in his best effort to match materials and attributes that work well together to get the best outcome. If he succeeds, it means the magic will flow smoothly, but if things don't match up, there could be some harmful effects. Despite the challenges, Miyabi doesn't give up. He keeps trying multiple times. He quietly mumbles his thoughts, expressing how tough the process is. With unwavering focus, he holds onto the enchanted fire, working hard to connect the lines and, little by little, he manages to create a thermal block and says to himself in amusement that he finally did it. Having successfully crafted a thermal block that emits heat, Miyabi contemplates the idea of placing it in Liz's room to provide warmth without needing a heater. However, he quickly realizes that such a solution wouldn't work well when they're outside in the cold. He thinks a bit more and comes up with another idea, creating a wearable item similar to a kotatsu that Liz can easily wear while they're traveling together. This idea excites Miyabi, and he rushes over to Liz to enthusiastically share his concept and ask for her undershirt to use in crafting. As he approaches Liz and makes his request, her response is one of anger and annoyance. She calls him names like creep, weirdo, and pervert. Miyabi immediately understands that his request was inappropriate and could be seen as disrespectful. He feels embarrassed about it and agrees with himself that it was not the right thing to ask for. Just then, a guard informs him that the town gate is about to close, so he quickly heads into the town before it shuts. With the city map in hand this time, Miyabi navigates the streets of the town by following its guidance. Noticing him, Mel assumes he's lost again and kindly offers her assistance by pointing him in the right direction. Miyabi corrects her, noting that he's not lost this time, and playfully responds to her request for a gift by crafting a small sparrow on the spot and giving it to her. Curious about Mel's plans, Miyabi asks her where she's headed. She explains that she's going to the repair shop to fix her weapon, which has a chip in it. After inspecting the weapon, Miyabi realizes that it's in pretty bad shape and its enchantment no longer works. Mel admits that the sword has been like this for quite some time. Intrigued by the possibility of repairing it, Miyabi asks if he can tag along and observe the process. Mel agrees, and together, they make their way toward the repair shop to get the sword fixed. Upon reaching the blacksmith, they find themselves at the same place where Miyabi had previously acquired iron ore. Weiss, the blacksmith, is visibly irritated with Mel for neglecting her sword until it broke. Spotting Miyabi, Weiss's expression changes, and he addresses him directly, recognizing him from before. Miyabi, feeling a tad embarrassed, responds that he hasn't created any weapons yet, clarifying that he's here to learn about the process of sword repair. Weiss then queries whether Miyabi knows Mel, to which Miyabi confirms their acquaintance. Observing the sword closely, Weiss notes that he's swamped with repair orders, implying that fixing Mel's sword might take some time. Mel, displaying her characteristic stubbornness, insists that she wants her sword repaired immediately. Weiss, slightly exasperated, advises her to be more patient. He then shifts his attention to Miyabi, acknowledging that he's observed Miyabi's frequent use of his crafting skill, referencing the stone axe. This observation leads Weiss to ask Miyabi if he's capable of at least synthesizing materials, a crucial skill in crafting. Miyabi experiences a shock upon hearing Weiss's request, his mind racing with thoughts. He interprets Weiss's words as a potential proposition for him to handle the repair. Repairing involves reviving the durability of weapons and armor through the synthesis of materials. In the case of Mel's sword, it's crafted from the relatively scarce material of bronze. This rarity adds to its value. Miyabi's response is a mixture of willingness and caution. He admits his desire to help but also expresses apprehension about the associated risks. If the synthesis process were to fail, it could result in damaging or even destroying the precious materials. Given the high quality of Mel's sword, which is crafted from excellent materials, Miyabi feels reluctant to expose such valuable components to the possibility of harm. His intention is to avoid any potential trouble or complications for Mel. Weiss takes a moment to explain things to Miyabi, saying that this kind of chance doesn't come often and can be good for any crafter. He tells Miyabi that working with magic is a special skill among crafters. Weiss also says that Miyabi shouldn't worry too much about a little loss, because Mel has enough money. He adds that Mel often breaks things and doesn't like waiting. After listening to Weiss, Miyabi understands the situation better and agrees with his advice. He gathers his courage and asks Mel if she's okay with him doing the job. Mel-san asks what reward he wants. She offers him a dragon fang, which is a rare and sharp material that can be sold for a good price. Weiss is interested to see how Miyabi will handle it, and Mel encourages him too, saying he can do it. With both of them watching, Miyabi sits down, putting the sword and dragon fang on the table in front of him. He focuses hard, ready to take on the task, but he feels a bit pressure because of all the attention.
As Miyabi sits on a chair, fang and sword lie in front of him. He employs his power to open the circuit of fang and sword, then connects them. He tells himself that he needs to get the magic flowing to the damaged area of the sword. Unlike enchantment, he must manipulate the magic of the material, raising the level of difficulty. Weiss watches him intently, trying to boost his courage. To encourage him further, Weiss offers that he can repair it with just one fang, and as a reward, he promises Miyabi some additional fangs. Miyabi smirks and appreciates Weiss's generosity, gladly accepting the offer. Mel cheers him on, expressing her belief in his abilities. Miyabi expends a substantial amount of energy. After a few seconds, he takes a long breath and shouts that it's finished. Weiss takes the sword, examining it with impressed expressions. Mel takes the sword from him and asks Weiss if he could replicate the process later. Looking at Miyabi's exhausted state, Weiss sees how tired he is. Miyabi remarks that it was 100 times harder than he anticipated. Weiss agrees and points out that this isn't a task for a crafter, which shocks Miyabi, as Weiss had previously mentioned something about a crafter's specialty. Weiss breaks into laughter, confessing that he said it just to make Miyabi agree to help. He rewards Miyabi with 2 fangs, but Miyabi's overconfidence ends up breaking one. Weiss informs him that he usually uses 4 fangs for such repairs, making Miyabi astounded before accepting the fangs. Mel chimes in, praising his accomplishment. Later, Miyabi is seen sleeping on a bed. Liz wakes him up, commenting on how hard he practices enchantment. As he wakes up, Miyabi stretches his body, mentioning how it feels stiff from sleeping in the lobby. They head to the guild and approach the request board. Liz chooses one, a gathering request. Miyabi glances at the board and asks about the other one, which turns out to be the Jade Forest investigation request. Liz is taken aback, aware of its difficulty level and the potential impact on other requests' rankings. She admits that she's never taken this particular request before. She says maybe it's too early for them to face unknown demons while they are investigating the forest. It's an extremely dangerous situation. Miyabi then asks her to accept the request on his behalf, and she agrees. She mentions that even during the ground sheep incident, she was anxious about the circumstances they would have faced if their plan had not worked. She confesses that if anything had gone wrong, she wouldn't have been entirely confident in her ability to protect him. She adds that they can also earn a good amount of money by just harvesting when she has him by her side. Miyabi takes pride in this notion, acknowledging its validity. Miyabi continues by advising her that if she genuinely desires to reach A rank, gaining more experience is crucial. He reminds her that Eleanor had shared the same perspective. Agreeing with his point, she concedes that he's correct. Playfully, Miyabi adds that they don't necessarily have to engage in combat with demons during the investigation. Drawing on his past life's experience as a mole, he suggests he can dig and hide in the ground if they encounter any danger. Liz's smile confirms her complete agreement. The two of them then proceed to Eleanor, handing over the request page to her. Eleanor looks at the request and then asks Liz a question. She wants to know if this is the first time Liz is trying out this specific quest. Liz confirms it and says she wanted to do something different. Eleanor tries to make them feel better by saying she believes in their skills, but she also reminds them to be careful during the investigation. If they feel any danger, she tells them not to take big risks and to leave quickly. Liz and Miyabi's faces change to a look of surprise as they understand how serious Eleanor is. They can tell something might be wrong, so they ask her about it. Eleanor answers them that there were some other adventurers who went to Jade Forest the other day and they have not come back yet. After listening to what Eleanor had said, they start making their way to the Jade Forest. It takes a little while, but they finally get to the edge of the forest. They walk through the woods for a few hours, and as the sun moves higher, it becomes afternoon. Miyabi remembers Eleanor's advice and talks to Liz about it. He says he was being careful because of what she told them, but the forest feels calmer than he thought. While they walk through the lush surroundings, their exploration goes on for a good part of the day. However, Miyabi can't help but notice that there are no demons around. He mentions this to Liz, saying that it's odd not to see any. Liz explains that this forest is different. It's up in the northeast of Angelum and is known for having demons. The forest is famous for its plants that can be used for medicine, so lots of adventurers come here. But lately, because people have gone missing, they're not allowed to go in. Miyabi remembers Eleanor talking about this. While they talk, Liz brings up the idea that demons and humans are natural enemies of each other. She asks Miyabi to think about what might happen if humans stop going into the forest. Miyabi thinks about it and says maybe it could help demons, and they might have more babies. Liz agrees, saying demons can have lots of babies and can move from other forests too. She says they're looking into things because Gale wolves, which usually live in the Jade Forest, were seen somewhere else. This makes them worried about the balance in the Jade Forest. Miyabi, with a serious look on his face, acknowledges that demons moving away from their usual home is puzzling. Liz proposes gathering samples to uncover any underlying issues. She points to some droppings, telling Miyabi to collect them. A bit annoyed, Miyabi expresses his hesitation, not wanting to carry feces in his bag. Liz chuckles and reminds him that he's supposed to help her reach A rank. Irritated but complying, Miyabi reluctantly puts the sample away. They find a nearby house and pay 5 silvers to stay for the night, as they don't have anywhere else to go at that time. The owner informs them that there's no food available, so they'll have to manage. Miyabi gets into bed, but his mind is restless. He thinks back to the tree sample, realizing it showed nothing unusual, and their encounters have been limited to small animals. Despite some strange occurrences, they're still in the dark. He had mentally prepared for this, understanding that the investigation might take a while. He thinks about the next steps, including the task of putting together a report once they're done with the investigation. As these thoughts fill Miyabi's mind, he realizes they haven't documented anything from their investigation. He also notices that Liz didn't instruct him about this, but he decides not to blame her. Since they're a team, he gets up from the bed and walks over to the table. He thinks it hasn't been too long since the sun went down, so all he needs are paper, a pencil, and the map Liz gave him. He employs his crafting abilities to create a pencil using charcoal and wood. He then makes dye from flowers and combines it with the pencil, producing a colored pencil. Lastly, he uses demon bones, glue, and wood to craft the paper. With the necessary materials at hand, he begins crafting a map, drawing on his experience working on a laptop in his previous life. He carefully makes a map with colored dots to differentiate between various elements on the map. Utilizing his skills, he creates a vivid and detailed map. The following day, when they wake up, he presents the map to Liz. She appears puzzled and asks him about it. Miyabi explains that before going to sleep, he summarized the previous day's investigation, emphasizing that keeping records is crucial for accurate reporting. Curious, Liz examines the map for a few minutes before addressing him. She expresses her intention to assist him from now on. Miyabi acknowledges that she might have been tired from scouting the previous day, which caused him to overlook these tasks. However, he commits to taking care of these responsibilities now, considering that he's mainly gathering materials anyway. He believes splitting up the work would be more efficient. Miyabi is taken aback by Liz's response to the map. She expresses her curiosity about how he made it. In a modest manner, Miyabi attributes the map's creation to Liz's own diligence. Liz elaborates, sharing that their usual practice involves verbal reporting. Normally, the guild handles the task of compiling these reports, so the concept of crafting a map as part of the process hadn't crossed her mind. Miyabi's sense of disappointment becomes more pronounced as he comes to terms with the possibility that the effort he put into creating the map might have been in vain. Liz reassures him, sharing that it's not that she didn't appreciate it, she simply hadn't noticed this approach before. She expresses admiration for the map's clarity and notes its use of colors and symbols. She remarks that it provides a clear overview and helps her see commonalities she wasn't aware of during the investigation. Miyabi feels a bit embarrassed but appreciates her compliment. As they both prepare to resume their investigation in the Jade Forest, Miyabi takes out a clipboard and explains its purpose. Liz, surprisingly unaware of this tool, gazes at it and expresses amazement while questioning its use. Miyabi clarifies that it prevents the paper from slipping off and allows them to write while walking. Liz is astounded by this practical use and playfully remarks that if she spots any demons, she'll let him know. Miyabi responds that he will jot down a quick note, which they can then compile into their records at night. With determination, Miyabi declares, "Let's show the guild that Liz the adventurer is able to do a perfect job in investigation." After spending 4 days on their investigation, they collected all their notes. On the 5th day, Liz comes across a campfire and points it out to Miyabi. He wonders if the missing adventurers might have made it, considering the forest is off limits. He speculates whether this means the adventurers might still be in the forest. Liz says she's not sure. They both look at the campfire, and Miyabi suggests that the way the campfire is set up hints that they might not have had time to take care of it properly. This could suggest an urgent situation they had to deal with. Liz readily agrees with the idea, suggesting that they spend the day nearby, particularly considering the recent days when they've been splitting up to do their work. Miyabi fully supports this suggestion and makes the decision to create a straightforward camouflage base. Employing his magical abilities, he deftly stitches together a generous number of leaves, thoughtfully collected during his logging activities. Once the camouflage base is ready, he proceeds to craft a comfortable cushion from soft wool, ideal for lounging. Explaining the design to Liz, Miyabi highlights that their setup allows them to maintain a comfortable vantage point across the river, perfectly suited for an extended stakeout. As the familiar scenes start to blend into a routine for Liz, she playfully voices her amazement at how uneventful they've become. In response, Miyabi playfully encourages her to seek out a small, delightful surprise in the middle of their surroundings. After a long and tiring day, Miyabi falls asleep while Liz stays awake and alert. After a little while, the sound of rustling leaves catches Liz's attention. She wakes up Miyabi, who opens his eyes and asks what's going on. Whispering to him, she tells him that something is coming closer. Miyabi is confused when he sees a huge demon. Liz identifies it as a black orc, a type of C-rank demon. She explains that she sensed a trail of monsters, but she didn't expect it to lead here. Liz is relieved that she used her magic to hide their scent, but these demons aren't supposed to be in this forest. Miyabi is confused and wonders if these black orcs are why other demons are leaving. Liz isn't sure, but she thinks it's likely since black orcs are a different kind of demon known for their size and ability to build homes. They might have a nest deep in the forest. Liz tells Miyabi to find their hiding place and report it to the guild. Continuing onward, Miyabi soon comes upon the black orc settlement. Sharing his discovery with Liz, she acknowledges it with a somber nod, admitting that she had a feeling this might be the case. However, she's taken aback by the astonishing speed at which their numbers are growing. Liz elaborates on the deeper concerns stemming from this burgeoning population, the emergence of a more advanced species with superior intelligence, comparable to an A-rank level, tasked with overseeing the group. At the mention of an A-rank threat, Miyabi's eyes widened in disbelief. Urging a swift return to the guild to report their findings, Miyabi is met with a sobering response from Liz. She goes on to explain that black orcs possess a rapid breeding cycle, and when the conditions are favorable, their numbers can surge in just a matter of days, an exact scenario unfolding before them. Struggling to absorb the gravity of the situation, Miyabi grapples with a sense of incredulity due to the presence of the black orcs. Liz's remorse surfaces as she reflects on how her actions might have unknowingly put Miyabi in harm's way. Battling a sense of distress, Miyabi asks her what they can possibly do in this situation. With an amused smirk, Liz gives a nod to Miyabi and instructs him to begin digging. Remarkably, within just a few minutes, Miyabi manages to excavate a tunnel that leads into a cave. Once they are inside the cave, he takes a moment to create a simple map to help them understand the layout. Liz notices the chill in the air and speculates that they might have to endure the cold throughout the entire night. Miyabi's smirk widens as he proudly points out that she's still got her knack for leading, even with a skilled crafter like him around. He playfully tells her to keep an eye on him as he starts putting his skills to use. He embarks on the task by crafting a sturdy foundation to create a comfortable space. Using his crafting magic, he artfully installs softly curved beams and columns to provide structural support. Employing wood, he forms the ceiling and walls of their newfound sanctuary. With a touch of enchantment, he illuminates the cave with a warm and inviting glow emanating from a luminous tree placed at the center. Miyabi doesn't forget Liz's sensitivity to the cold and uses his enchanting abilities to conjure a cozy fire, adding both warmth and charm to the space. Within a matter of minutes, a cozy haven takes shape before their eyes. It features a designated dining area with a round table, illuminated by the gentle radiance of the luminous tree, creating a sense of homely warmth. Additionally, he designs a bedroom furnished with a plush double bed, promising utmost comfort for restful sleep. Facing the radiant tree, there's a cozy living space centered around a fireplace, ensuring a snug ambience. Thoughtfully, he includes a water basin for basic hygiene needs. In his mind, Miyabi is convinced that even Liz, who's becoming used to his crafting skills, will be genuinely surprised by this creation. Bursting with happiness, he can't help but exclaim that his work is now complete. Liz's gaze is fixed on the cozy house with amazement, a result of Miyabi's swift work. Miyabi, however, feels a bit let down since Liz doesn't react to the luminous tree he added. Liz's expression changes to surprise when she realizes the floor is warm beneath her feet, offering a soothing sensation similar to a hot spring. The comfort is so overwhelming that she can't help but exclaim in wonder, likening the feeling to being in a heavenly place of relaxation. The concerns about the nearby black orcs seem to momentarily fade away. Liz finds herself in a delightful state of comfort, drawing parallels to the foolishness of upscale hotels. She revels in the genuine coziness created by Miyabi's craftsmanship. Filled with playful emotions, she says she can sleep on such a warm floor with a soft cushion. Responding to this, Miyabi reveals his additional surprise that he has crafted a soft wooden bed just for her. Liz's excitement is detectable as she excitedly jumps onto the bed. Liz enjoys the cozy warmth, feeling like she's being hugged by a comfy blanket. In a lighthearted tone, Miyabi playfully jokes with her, suggesting that the incredible comfort might make her want to sleep for too long. As the sun rises, Miyabi enters Liz's room to rouse her from sleep. Liz, still in a drowsy state, mistakes Miyabi for her father and mumbles a request for just one more minute. Miyabi is left perplexed by this mix-up. Eventually, Liz starts to wake up, her voice drowsy as she playfully asks for a do-over on waking up. Miyabi stands his ground, declining the reset and prompting Liz to wash her face. After a brief moment, Liz acknowledges the sun's presence and confirms she's now fully awake and prepared for the day ahead, having shed her sleepiness. Exiting the cave, they spot black orcs roaming about. Liz swiftly notices one of the orcs preparing to attack her. Reacting quickly, she conjures ice javelins using her magic and hurls them at the orc, taking it down. Without hesitation, they retreat back into the safety of the cave. Miyabi commends Liz for her actions, and she advises him to initiate retreat sooner next time. With a smile, she reveals her plan, naming it Operation Mole. Miyabi's emotions waver between confusion and surprise at the name. Liz further explains that attempting a head-on fight against the Black Orcs is an impractical option. The stark power gap and her susceptibility during the magic charging phase make direct engagement perilous. Even a mere moment of being unprotected can have severe consequences. Miyabi responds by marking their current location on the map and suggesting that they dig additional underground passages. This strategy would allow them swift movement and surprise entry. Acknowledging that her idea might sound ambitious, Liz admits that things often take unexpected turns with Miyabi around. He brings an element of unpredictability to their plans. While discussing their options, another Black Orc comes into view. With swift thinking, Miyabi employs his crafting abilities to create a stone projectile that strikes the orc's chest, neutralizing the threat. During a pause in their action, Liz hesitates before sharing an unusual thought with Miyabi. Her confession is sincere. She finds the taste of black orcs quite appealing and enjoys their meat. She contemplates the idea of defeating the orcs not only for their safety but also to obtain for themselves and to sell it for money. This mixed emotion underscores her complex feelings about the situation. Miyabi's expression shifts to one of surprise as he responds to Liz's unexpected statement. He finds her proposition intriguing and agrees, saying it would indeed be an interesting approach. Liz explains that performing a series of consecutive ice javelin attacks was a challenging feat for her. With 5 orcs still present, she expresses doubt about her ability to eliminate them all, so she asks Miyabi to do something regarding this situation. Miyabi starts creating larger pitfalls as a plan. During this exchange, 2 orcs are actively searching for Liz. Seizing an opportunity, she emerges from a hole behind them and announces her presence. Swiftly, she hurls ice javelins at the orcs, eliminating them. With 2 down, the remaining 3 orcs direct their attention to Liz. She playfully taunts them, hoping to provoke a response. As they charge toward her, they unwittingly fall into the holes Miyabi had crafted earlier. The orcs meet their demise, clearing the area of their threat. Curious about their inventory, Liz asks Miyabi if he's managed to collect everything they needed and put it safely away. Miyabi is hopeful that he hasn't forgotten anything important. While sorting through the leftover things from the defeated orcs, he stumbles upon a sword. In a moment of quiet respect, he sends a prayer for the sword's owner. With a heavy heart, he tells Liz that he has found this sword from one of the orc, and this sword might have belonged to one of the people who went missing. Liz agrees, sharing his feelings of sadness. She holds the sword, her expression showing regret, and suggests that they should return it to the ones who are waiting for that person who owned it. Miyabi manages a small smile, showing that he appreciates her kind suggestion and understanding. Later on, Liz smiles, stretching her arms above her head, and suggests that they finish their investigation before heading back. As the sun dips toward the horizon, they stay inside the house. Lying in bed, Miyabi's thoughts circle around the sword's original owner. Even though he knows they're not to blame, he can't help but wonder about the person behind the sword. He admires Liz's inner strength and how she manages to keep a clear mind during tough moments. Both of them wake up in the morning and head to the guild. Upon reaching the guild, Miyabi turns to Liz and comments that it feels like they've returned home. Upon entering the guild, they approach Eleanor and announce their return. Eleanor looks at them warmly and extends a welcome. She shares her worry, mentioning that they were over to the scheduled days. Liz explains that they were being careful during this time, wanting to ensure they got used to things. Eleanor gazes at them and notes that they both seem unharmed. Eleanor, after looking at them uninjured, asks if they can provide their report. Liz nudges Miyabi, prompting him to take the lead in presenting the report. Miyabi begins to deliver a verbal report, summarizing their encounters. He mentions that they encountered black orcs near the forest lake, causing Eleanor to express surprise at the mention of black orcs. Miyabi then informs her that they also discovered a considerable number of gala wolf remains in the area. He follows up by presenting the written report to her. Eleanor's surprise grows as she looks over the pages of the report. She inquires if Miyabi-kun compiled this report alone, and he clarifies that Liz also contributed. He explains that he sought Liz's expertise for her knowledge and ability to estimate the demon population. Liz blushes modestly, downplaying her role. Eleanor examines the report, her eyes widening in astonishment at the remarkable quality they've achieved in just 10 days, and tells them even the guild would have taken up to 1 month to create such a report. She appreciates their work and expresses how incredibly fast they've completed it. Eleanor reads through the report, her expression changing as she reaches the part detailing the encounter with 11 black orcs. In a burst of urgency, she calls for B-rank adventurers to be summoned. However, upon learning that the black orcs have already been defeated, she's left stunned, as are the people around her. Liz, with a blush and a laugh, reassures them that they just need to show the evidence. Nonetheless, the gathered adventurers start to speculate and gossip, doubting the credibility of Liz and Miyabi's claim. Some suggest that they might have mistaken the black orcs for other demons, or even accuse them of lying. As more people start to doubt and question, a young girl speaks up, asking Liz if she knows the recommended rank for defeating a black orc. Liz responds with a hint of annoyance that it's a C rank. Eleanor speaks up, puzzled, confirming that Liz is indeed skilled enough to take on one, but battling against 11 is an entirely different story. As the murmurs and doubts continue to circulate, Liz and Miyabi stand there, feeling increasingly embarrassed and uneasy. Liz exchanges a subtle glance with Miyabi, signaling for him to take action. Acting on the cue, Miyabi opens his inventory and places several large pieces of black orc meat on the counter in front of Eleanor. The sight leaves Eleanor and the surrounding adventurers stunned, their mouths agape. Amid the astonishment, the dismantling team nearby starts shouting excitedly about the meat prize being back. The crowd rushes toward the table, eager to get their hands on the valuable black orc meat. In a state of shock, Miyabi remains frozen upon hearing that name. Eleanor proceeds to clarify that the nickname Meat Prince originated from the ground sheep incident and has been playfully assigned to him by the dismantling team. Miyabi wears a disappointed expression, clearly not like the name. Eleanor, however, tries to uplift his spirit by mentioning that supporters rarely receive such affectionate nicknames. Liz joins in on the light-hearted teasing, calling him the Meat Prince with a smirk. Miyabi playfully suggests that they call him Mole instead, with a touch of humor in his tone. With confirmation that the meat is indeed from black orcs, Eleanor and the chief of the dismantling team both agree on the unmistakable origin of each meat pile. Miyabi's mind swirls in wonder, pondering how he managed to masterfully cut the meat without marring the joints. Eleanor's praise follows, describing his craftsmanship as bordering on the divine due to its sheer perfection. She goes on to mention that word has been spreading among the staff, and while she could discreetly handle the ground sheep situation, this time around, the situation might not remain concealed. Eleanor reveals that the guild master wishes to have a discussion with both Liz and Miyabi. Their faces turn pale as they feel shocked, and their thoughts race, wondering if they might have accidentally done something really wrong that the guild master wants to talk to them about. As they enter the guild master's office and settle into their chairs, they take a sip of the tea offered. The guild master, named Xian, introduces himself and then goes straight to the point. He looks at Liz and asks her if they had received help from someone else while completing the request. Liz wonders if he's accusing them of cheating and responds with a nervous voice that their party consisted only of her and Miyabi, so it was just the two of them. Miyabi, with a worried expression and sweating slightly, chimes in, saying that Liz would never do anything like that, and he looks to Eleanor for confirmation. Eleanor simply nods in agreement. Liz and Miyabi exchange thoughts in their minds about how even the guild and Eleanor seem surprised by their work quality. The guild master's suspicions are natural since he only knows them through their paperwork. It's not usual for a C rank and F rank to handle such a task. With a strong and composed voice, Xian explains that survey requests hold great significance for the guild. These missions require experience to assess security, the interactions among monsters, and more. Hence, they are typically assigned to adventurers of C rank and above. Miyabi, both irritated and anxious, thinks to himself that Xian is basically asking them to prove their innocence. However, it's almost impossible to prove they haven't sought help from others. The guild master then proposes that they swear an oath to verify the truth in their report. Liz produces the sword they discovered from the orc and mentions that it wasn't included in the official report. She solemnly swears that their report contains no falsehoods, and she hands over the sword as evidence of their sincerity. As Zan's gaze falls upon the sword, his expression turns somber. He shifts his attention to Eleanor and states that the inscription on the sword matches the name of the missing adventurer. He instructs Eleanor to contact the next of kin and return the sword. Miyabi and Liz are left speechless by this unexpected turn of events. Eleanor seeks confirmation, questioning if a simple question and answer is sufficient. Xian presents the report, revealing Liz's impressive work history. Her success rate stands at an astounding 98.2%, having accomplished 170 out of 173 missions. Miyabi is taken aback by this revelation, acknowledging the dedication Liz has shown in climbing up from the bottom and maintaining such excellent results. Xian continues, praising the quality of the monster parts and the meat that their party provided. He expresses his desire for them to stay connected with the guild and appreciates their creation of a thorough report, emphasizing the difficulty of achieving such detail without first-hand experience. Finding no proof of deceit, he breaks into a smile and formally declares them innocent. He directs their attention to a section in the report, revealing heartfelt gratitude from clients spanning the years. Xian shifts his focus to Liz, voicing his trust in her words. However, he raises an eyebrow at the idea of Liz facing off against 11 orcs more or less by herself. Liz acknowledges her uncertainty and credits Miyabi's help as a contributing factor. Xian questions whether Miyabi acted as the vanguard, noting his role as a supporter in the report. Miyabi chimes in, acknowledging that the fighting was done by Liz, and he clarifies that he handled the supportive tasks. Xian's frustration builds as he sternly warns them to align their stories within a minute. Annoyed, Liz asserts that Miyabi did indeed take down at least 2 of the orcs. Miyabi, in a self-deprecating manner, downplays his role, asserting that he was just responsible for support. Xian's annoyance grows as he shifts his gaze to Eleanor, asking if they're attempting to be a comedic duo on the side. Eleanor responds with a smile, enjoying the amusing dynamics playing out before her. Liz quiets Miyabi by covering his mouth with her hand and faces the guild master with an annoyed look. She firmly states that Miyabi's view is very one-sided and straightforwardly calls him a walking and talking warehouse. Going into more detail, she shares how she saw him carrying a lot of black orc meat. She also tells about watching him quickly dig a huge hole in just 6 seconds and effortlessly store all the dirt, which he calls his way of support. She playfully guesses that his storage might even compete with the biggest warehouse in Angelin's production guild. Miyabi blushes with pride due to Liz's surprising praise. Xian is surprised and asks her to say it again, and Liz confirms that he heard correctly, admitting she's not thinking logically anymore. Xian appears confused and questions Eleanor about the stories circulating regarding Miyabi's storage limits. Eleanor dismisses these stories, stating they're false. Miyabi proudly chimes in, mentioning that his storage can contain more than just meat. Xian, facing an unusual circumstance, instructs Eleanor to accompany Miyabi to the storage area and aid him in selling or discarding any materials he doesn't require. Eleanor and Miyabi depart, leaving Liz in the office. Liz rises from her seat, expressing gratitude to the guild master for his trust in her. Xian gazes at her with a touch of nostalgia and a faint smile. Curious if there's more to say, Liz inquires further. Xian reveals that one of his staff members was her father and reflects on how her diligent father has raised an equally diligent daughter. Eleanor guides Miyabi to the warehouse, where he finds the space quite roomy, almost like a house. Eleanor expresses her worry that this warehouse isn't as big as the ones managed by the production guild. She clarifies that for adventurers, their main source of money comes from completing missions. Even though her current job feels like a bonus that won't last long, she's been in this position for almost 3 years now. Miyabi is surprised and asks if she used to be an adventurer. Eleanor shares that she took her current role after her group disbanded. She asks Miyabi about his skill in taking out fangs without getting hurt, as she doesn't know much about collecting materials. Miyabi explains it's because he's good with his hands, and Eleanor wonders if it's simply a matter of having nimble fingers. Later on, Miyabi seizes an opportunity to have a private chat with Eleanor while Liz is away. He's curious if they could share some of the survey mission's reward with the family who lost the sword's owner. Eleanor explains that the reward would be split between them and would amount to around 100 gold coins. With a grin, Miyabi says that's okay by him since he's got some money saved up. Eleanor's expression turns a bit sad as she mentions that his idea is kind yet a bit naive. Miyabi, though, sticks to his decision, wanting to trust his gut and not let a heavy heart weigh him down. Eleanor agrees to handle the arrangements, and before heading off, she reminds him not to underestimate the value of the reward money, which truly compensates adventurers for the risks they take. Miyabi expresses his thanks and watches her leave with a smile. 2 days later, Eleanor reaches out to Miyabi and Liz with an unexpected update. She shares surprising news. Their efforts have gone beyond what was expected, and as a result, they're being rewarded with a substantial amount of 910 gold pieces. Liz raises an eyebrow in disbelief, questioning whether it could be a mistake. Eleanor assures them that she has carefully reviewed the figures, leaving both Miyabi and Liz amazed and full of happiness. Eleanor suggests that they can safely store the money with the guild, and the two of them readily agree. Miyabi's thoughts race as he calculates that 910 gold pieces add up to around 9.1 million yen. Even if he divides it in half, it's still about 4.55 million yen, which is close to his former annual salary. A smile graces Miyabi's face as he envisions this money making a significant impact in helping a grieving family, truly hoping it will bring positive change. After a few moments, Eleanor further speaks up. In addition to the monetary rewards, it has been decided that Miyabi will be promoted to D rank. Both Miyabi and Liz are in a state of great shock. Liz, in particular, can hardly believe the news. Miyabi asks if they skipped E rank. Eleanor responds, explaining that while it's indeed rare for a support class to skip ranks, Miyabi's significant contributions to the guild have led them to make this decision, aiming to invest in his future growth. As they both struggle to take in the news, Eleanor continues, stating that if even F-rank adventurers are receiving such substantial monetary rewards, it might pose a problem. She informs them that they're earning even more than her and some B-rank adventurers. Miyabi, speaking with a sense of pride, remarks that it's likely to piss some people off. He expresses his gratitude to Eleanor for considering them. As they were getting ready to leave, Eleanor brings up another matter with Liz. She asks Liz if she would like the donation to remain anonymous this time as well. This question catches Liz off guard, and she reacts by jumping slightly and covering Eleanor's mouth with her hands in a playful manner. Miyabi stands by, looking a bit puzzled by the sudden exchange. Eleanor quickly apologizes for her abrupt question. Liz reassures Eleanor that it's perfectly fine and confirms her preference for anonymity, similar to their previous donation. Miyabi, still slightly confused, starts to form a question on his lips, but Liz beats him to it. With a somewhat annoyed expression, she asserts that the decision about the money is hers to make, emphasizing her right to choose. Miyabi lets out a light laugh and playfully points out that he didn't even say anything yet. Their lighthearted interaction continues for a moment before they both make their way out of the room, leaving behind a sense of camaraderie and warmth in the air. As they step outside, their conversation shifts to their first encounter with black orcs and their meeting with the guild master. Engaging in light-hearted chatter, Miyabi brings up something he believes is essential to do now. Liz wonders if it involves gathering materials, and Miyabi agrees, but adds that before that, they should throw a victory party. He teases Liz, promising her a feast that will not only satisfy her eyes, but also her stomach, his special Chinese cuisine featuring black orc meat. The term Chinese cuisine catches Liz's attention, as she's not familiar with it. Miyabi explains that he'll be taking charge of the grilling today. Liz insists that she can handle it herself, noting that he'll cook too fast and take the fun out of it. However, Miyabi has already prepared the food. Liz takes a bite, and her reaction is beyond her expectations. She's stunned by the taste and questions the type of bun and the filling inside, as it's something she's never experienced before. She praises the texture, describing it as juicy and sweet. Liz exclaims that Miyabi has successfully hooked her on the flavor. To everyone's surprise, Miyabi spins the table they're sitting at. Liz is taken aback, commenting on the table's odd shape. Miyabi explains that he can't serve traditional Chinese food without the rotating table. Liz playfully gives the table a spin as well, admitting she doesn't understand his explanation. Miyabi spins it a bit more with a hint of annoyance, mentioning there's no point in returning it to its initial position. Liz apologizes with a confused expression. While eating, they spot Mel enjoying the food too. Surprised by her presence, Mel greets them, mentioning she followed the smell of the meat. Miyabi and Liz both find themselves in a state of shock as Mel's name rings out from Liz's lips. Miyabi, a mixture of anger and confusion evident in his voice, questions Liz about her familiarity with Mel. He asks if they know each other. Liz, quick to respond, informs him that Mel is a famous B-rank adventurer. While enjoying her coffee, Liz observes that Mel and Miyabi seem to share a degree of recognition. Mel joins the conversation, saying that he often gets lost. Jumping into the talk, Mel tells Miyabi that Weiss is looking for him. Liz is surprised to hear this, not expecting Mel to know Master Weiss. Miyabi tries to explain that he only knows Master Weiss in a professional way. Liz, looking puzzled and surprised, asks if he really knows who Master Weiss is. Miyabi smiles and says he knows Master Weiss is a skilled blacksmith, wondering if he's famous. While they walk to the blacksmith, Weiss notices Liz and Miyabi together. He wonders why they are hanging out. Liz, with a happy face, tells him they are having a little party. Weiss politely asks if he can talk to Miyabi. Liz suggests if it's important, Miyabi can talk to Weiss. She adds they can continue if Miyabi agrees. Interested, Miyabi turns to Liz and asks how she knows Mr. Weiss. Liz explains that Mr. Weiss is the skilled Black Iron Weiss, respected by the royal family. She also says he's like a father to her. This news surprises Miyabi a lot. Weiss chuckles and thanks Miyabi for looking out for Liz. Hearing that Mr. Weiss is Liz's foster dad leaves Miyabi very confused. Then Weiss changes the topic, asking Miyabi if he's interested in joining a big project, renovating Duke Baldini's mansion, a job overseen by the regional Lord of Angelum. Liz and Miyabi are completely shocked by this news. Liz stutters, asking if it's really true that they're talking about the local lord. Miyabi is also taken aback and asks if Weiss knows the lord of the land personally. Weiss doesn't directly answer their questions, but instead mentions that he's in charge of selecting personnel and can choose whoever he wants. Miyabi wonders if he's ready for such a big project, but Liz encourages him, saying it's a great opportunity to make connections by doing custom work for the Duke. Weiss adds that Miyabi will be working under a project manager. Liz advises him to go all out if he wants to leave an impression, and though Miyabi is confused, he agrees to give it his best shot. Later, the trio, along with Weiss, arrives at Angelum Western Quarter, where the residences of the aristocracy sprawl over a gently sloping hillside. They reach the mansion, and the guards at the entrance welcome Master Weiss. Miyabi gazes at the massive mansion, much larger than he imagined, and remarks that he's finally here. With the sun setting, Weiss assures them that sleeping arrangements are sorted, and they'll begin work the next day. As they explore the mansion's garden, Miyabi's mind races about who he'll be working with. He realizes he didn't plan for this, but he's determined to work hard for this opportunity. Observing the flowers, he notices something amiss with a particular plant. He mutters to himself that it seems to be withering. A person nearby responds, explaining that it's a Scipia rose variant, known for its hardiness and versatility, but native to a warmer climate than this region. In the Northern Territory's cooler temperatures, it might struggle. Miyabi is surprised by this person's knowledge. The stranger, with curly hair and a royal jacket with a bounty, leaves Miyabi puzzled. Just then, Weiss appears, addressing the person as Your Grace, and stating that meeting everyone in person might be problematic. Miyabi's surprise turns to realization as he understands that this person is Duke Trent Belden, the mansion's owner. After that moment, Miyabi retreats to his room. The night before their departure, Liz quizzes Miyabi to prepare him. She asks him about the Lord of Angelum who governs the territory. Miyabi ponders and humorously responds that he's pretty sure the Lord is a guy, probably. Upon hearing this, Liz takes the opportunity to provide Miyabi with more information. She explains that this mansion belongs to one of the 5 prestigious great ducal houses. Liz goes on to share more details about him, mentioning that to become the head of a major noble house, he needs to graduate at the top of his class from the Royal Academy of Magic. Miyabi, surprised by the unexpected insights, remarks that the Duke is truly intelligent. Liz continues, informing him that the Duke has also played a role in fostering the growth of 3 major guilds and possesses the authority to impose restrictions on other nobles within his territory when necessary. Liz reflects on her own situation with a smile and shimmering eyes. She's content with her current occupation, able to earn money and acquire goods and services as long as she meets her rank requirements. She finds it amazing to have the freedom to choose various jobs. Liz muses about her journey, starting in this town and falling in love with adventuring, leading her to this point. During their conversation, Miyabi realizes that the Duke's subjects hold a strong loyalty to him. Liz agrees with this observation, adding that while it's true, the Duke's eccentric nature is also undeniable. With their exchange concluded, they both sleep for the night. The next day, Liz departs from the mansion as she doesn't have any work there. Liz feels nervous as he heads to the meeting where everyone, including Weiss, awaits Duke Baldini. Meanwhile, Miyabi stands there and mutters to himself that he was warned the feudal lord was a weirdo, but he can handle something at the level of chatting like strangers who are old friends. He looks at the workmen, pondering, as the door opens, revealing Duke Baldini. Duke apologizes for the wait and introduces himself as Duke Trent Baldini. He shakes hands with Weiss, expressing his gratitude for Weiss accepting his request. Weiss assures him that this will be his best work. While Duke Baldini observes the workmen, his gaze falls on Miyabi, who becomes more nervous. Afterward, Duke Baldini addresses them, noting the mansion's impressive exterior while highlighting that it's been over 30 years since the interior was last updated. He elaborates that the original intention was a simple refresh, but he emphasizes the importance of interior design reflecting the modern era they live in. He encourages them to trust their chosen path, letting nothing hinder them from achieving their goals. Duke Baldini tells them that the future is in their hands to shape and encourages them to take pride in their work. He expresses anticipation for what they will create before leaving. With Duke Baldini gone, the workmen gather. One of them approaches Miyabi, asking if he's the one Weiss brought from outside. The man speaks loudly, causing Miyabi to nervously explain that he doesn't want to disrupt their workflow. Weiss angrily shouts attention. By striking a hammer on the floor, he tells them there's no time for casual conversation and reminds them that this job is for an old friend of his. He stakes the reputation of his business on the results of this renovation, warning that anyone not serious will be dismissed. The workmen respond, declaring their seriousness with a resounding "Yes, sir." Miyabi takes a moment to think about how he can help and then goes up to Weiss, asking how he can pitch in. Weiss kindly requests him to bring over some basic tools, paper and pen. Miyabi gets the items, but he's not sure how they're supposed to be used. Weiss explains that, as the person in charge of the project, he needs to create a plan by himself. This news surprises Miyabi, leaving him unsure about what exactly he should make. Adding to his tasks, Weiss pairs Miyabi with another person to co-manage the main bath area. The kid excitedly exclaims how thrilled he is to work with Miyabi, though Miyabi finds his sound of voice a bit excessive and slightly annoying. Weiss escorts Miyabi and the young kid to the main bath area and then departs. Miyabi gazes at the space and starts contemplating the main issue, the bathroom. He begins brainstorming how to approach the task, pondering the ways he can improve it. After a few moments, he realizes that this is a wonderful chance for him. Now he can focus on aesthetics, which he loves, without having to worry about financial limitations. The kid interrupts his thoughts with a loud question, asking if he said something. Annoyed, Miyabi replies, asking if there's something the kid needs. He realizes he hasn't introduced himself yet and does so, saying he's Miyabi, a crafter. The kid attempts to speak but stumbles over his words, eventually introducing himself as Karan. Miyabi smiles, acknowledging Karan's effort to communicate. Miyabi then suggests that they begin working on a demo in the meantime, given the circumstances. He expresses his pleasure in working with Karan. However, Karan seems visibly frustrated and annoyed. Miyabi reflects that building good relationships with coworkers can indeed be challenging at times. Later, he creates a couple of design blueprints and takes them to the Duke for his opinion. Wearing his glasses, the Duke examines the two designs Miyabi has crafted. He comments that one of them resembles the traditional Polska Elventride design, and the other resembles the architectural styles of the cave dwarves. He concludes with a smile that both designs are rather ordinary. Hearing this feedback, Miyabi feels disheartened and let down. After that, Miyabi leaves the mansion and starts thinking about what to do next. He's feeling a bit lost because he thought his designs were creative, but they were called ordinary. Standing outside, he remembers the Dream World game, which was full of fantasy elements. He wonders if this world is similar to that game. Lost in thought, Miyabi notices Karan looking tired nearby. He goes up to him and sees a cart filled with lunch boxes. Karan explains he brought enough food for 2 weeks. Miyabi suggests putting the lunch boxes in Karan's inventory, but Karan says he doesn't have space left, so Miyabi helps by storing them for him. Then he asks to borrow Karan's hammer. With the hammer in hand, Miyabi hits the floor with a strong strike, shattering it. Karan is amazed and calls Miyabi a master. Miyabi doesn't like being called that and asks Karan to stop. He tells Karan that he already considers him a student. Karan admits feeling jealous and asks Miyabi to teach him the floor-breaking move. Feeling tired, Miyabi calls it a talent and remembers once he was also like Karan. He encourages Karan by saying he might have hidden talents too, if he's not tired. Karan is left thinking as Miyabi goes to rest. The next morning when they wake up, Miyabi effortlessly creates a floor in a matter of moments. Karan watches in amazement, calling Miyabi a superhuman due to his speed. Miyabi seizes the opportunity to ask Karan a question. He points to the pit-looking thing in the main bath area and asks if Karan knows its purpose. Suddenly, a familiar voice speaks from behind them, revealing that it's a reservoir for heating water. Surprised, Miyabi turns around to find Duke Belden standing there. Duke goes on to explain that after the water is heated, it's transported to the bath using buckets. Miyabi is taken aback, realizing that there's no running water in the mansion. Curious about Duke's statement, Miyabi asks if they fetch water from the well using servants. Duke clarifies that they once had a servant with fire magic who would heat up the water efficiently. However, the servant retired due to old age. Duke admits that it's not the most glamorous job and shares his struggle in finding a replacement. After discussing this, he leans in closer to Miyabi and asks if he's come up with any good ideas. With nervousness on his face, Miyabi tells Duke that he has another design to show, with some extra elements added to the base design. Duke sits on the edge of the pit, and Miyabi quickly offers him a chair. As Miyabi presents the design, Duke studies the blueprint and comments that the architecture resembles that of the Elvish Macornian dynasty. Miyabi's expression falls once again. After their conversation, Duke leaves the area. Duke and Weiss sit down to chat on chairs. Duke informs Weiss that the project is progressing smoothly, except for the bath area. Weiss chuckles and suggests it might need a bit more time. He adds that if pleasing Duke were too simple, it wouldn't be as enjoyable. Duke acknowledges that Weiss truly understands him. He mentions that he has approved the design Weiss presented in the final drafts. Weiss proposes that they can always go ahead with that design if need be, but he wonders if Duke isn't curious. He explains that he has a bad habit that when he sees potential in something, he can't simply give it away like that. He playfully teases Duke, suggesting that he's quite insistent on the whole show me original ideas concept and is becoming an unreasonable old man like others. Weiss emphasizes that success lies in how well he can present the client's vision and anticipates remarkable outcomes from this new project. Duke laughs and praises Weiss, acknowledging that only someone of his caliber can accomplish certain things. 4 paths stretch out from the center, leading to a tall, beautiful tree surrounded by a pot of water. Around these paths, the area is shaded by lovely trees and dotted with benches. Eleanor stands by the tree, engrossed in a book, dressed elegantly. After a brief while, Liz joins her, donning a charming outfit with a flower in her hair. She apologizes for her tardiness, but Eleanor assures her that she's right on time and compliments Liz's adorable appearance. Blushing and giggling, Liz admits her excitement about their outing. She explains that it's been a while since she went on a date and took extra care choosing her outfit, worrying she might look too much like an adventurer and embarrass Eleanor. She adds that getting ready was easier when Miyabi was around, and she assures Eleanor that he doesn't mind her using his inventory as a personal closet. Curious, Eleanor asks about Miyabi's recent whereabouts at the guild, expressing that she hasn't seen him lately. Liz reveals that he was invited to contribute to the mansion's renovation by the Lord. Eleanor finds this news surprising. After trying many times without success, Miyabi starts to feel really tired and frustrated. He lies down on the ground, feeling completely worn out from the past 3 days of disappointment. Each blueprint he shows is turned down, and the work on the bathroom is stuck without any progress. Since he can't figure out what else to do, Miyabi decides to go to the Duke's library. His plan is to look at the different ways buildings are designed in this world, but every time he shows a design to the Duke, the answer is always no, and the Duke asks for something totally new. Miyabi is getting really tired of this pattern, and he wonders if the Duke will keep saying no until he sees a design that he's never seen before. It feels like this loop won't stop, with the Duke rejecting ideas that don't match what he's thinking. Miyabi wanders through the mansion, his mind busy with questions about what the Duke really envisions. He realizes he can't read minds, so he ponders the importance of listening to the client's desires. Tired and frustrated, he tries to shift his perspective to see things from the client's point of view. Shaking off his thoughts, he suddenly realizes he's lost in the mansion. Everything looks equally luxurious, making it hard to tell where he is. He spots a pathway leading outside on a lower level and figures if he sees it from outside, he might get his bearings. He heads downstairs in that direction. Downstairs, he encounters a graceful young woman who kindly informs him that the construction site isn't there, offering to guide him if that's what he's looking for. Miyabi assumes she's a maid and apologizes, asking if she could just point him in the right direction. She responds in a distant manner, insisting on guiding him. As they walk, Miyabi introduces himself enthusiastically, mentioning his involvement in the construction project. She quietly acknowledges that she knows. Trying to fill the silence, Miyabi praises the garden, the flowers, and the weather. However, his attempts fall flat as she remains indifferent, continuing along the path with a sense of distance, leaving Miyabi feeling a bit awkward and unsure how to proceed. As he walks in that direction, he spots two girls playing with stuffed bears. As he takes a closer look, he realizes one of them is Mel. Confused, he asks her what she's doing there, noticing that the other girl is dressed more elegantly. Mel teases him by remarking that he seems to be everywhere. Miyabi retorts that the same could be said for her. The second girl, who is playing with Mel, asks about Miyabi. Mel introduces him as an F-rank adventurer who's skilled at getting lost. Miyabi proudly corrects her, stating that he's been promoted to D rank. The second girl, Chiffin Beldini, introduces herself with a soft apology for the delayed introduction. Miyabi is taken aback, realizing she's the Duke's daughter, but her manners and beauty align with his expectations. Curious, Miyabi asks them what they're up to aside from playing with the stuffed bear. Chiffin replies that they're not doing anything special and that they often engage in such play. She adds that they're cleaning the bear because it's dirty. The maid who accompanied Miyabi earlier interjects with annoyance, wishing they had informed her so she could help. Chiffin smiles and gently tells Alicia that she can handle washing her own things from time to time. Mel asks Miyabi why he's there and jokingly wonders if he's lost once more. Miyabi's face becomes serious as he explains his current situation of having to create the entire design for the main bath. Chiffin adds that her father, the Duke, is really busy, so he cherishes the few times he can relax in the bath. She eagerly looks forward to seeing Miyabi's ideas. Mel also wishes him good luck with his project as he leaves the scene. While leaving, Miyabi observes them cleaning the bear, and as Mel comments on the bear's fluffiness, an idea suddenly comes to him. Continuing on his path, he quickly approaches Miss Alicia and asks for her help in locating Duke Beldini. She guides him to the Duke, where Miyabi discusses. Miyabi rushes from the room toward the main bath area. Karan spots him and hurries over, asking if it's true that the design got approved. Miyabi grabs Karan's hand and excitedly spins him around, expressing his joy that he succeeded. Brimming with energy and a wide smile, he thinks to himself that he can finally commence the actual work. Karan gazes at Miyabi with admiration, thinking how amazing he is. He considers that Miyabi designed something even Duke himself acknowledged, so perhaps Miyabi can assist him too. Karan eagerly approaches him, pleading to be taught. He mentions that Master Weiss was kind to hire him despite his lack of magical ability. Miyabi reflects that Karan is the first fellow crafter he has met. He wonders if there's anything he can do to help someone who arrived with nothing. Faced with an earnest request from Karan, he's determined to do his best. Miyabi smiles at Karan and tells him that he isn't sure if it will work out, but he's willing to give it a try. Curious about Karan's current skill level, Miyabi inquires what he can do. Karan begins crafting a hammer, but Miyabi stops him midway. Karan was manually working on it, neglecting crafting-related skills, resulting in an odd-looking piece of wood that's far from a hammer's shape. Observing the quality of Karan's creation, Miyabi considers that Karan's low skill level might be the reason behind it. With his functional inventory and class-specific magic skills, Miyabi surmises that Karan could benefit from practice to level up. Recognizing the renovation project ahead that necessitates these skills, Miyabi proposes a path forward to Karan. Miyabi acknowledges that what he's about to ask might be a lot. He presents a box the size of a fingernail and requests Karan's crafting skills to make 5,000 of these tiny blocks. Karan's mouth drops open in shock at the number. Miyabi encourages Karan to use his crafting skills on this task, explaining that regular practice is key to improvement. In a state of surprise, Karan agrees to give it his best shot. While watching Karan, Miyabi contemplates why Mr. Weiss brought a young person to such a high-stakes construction site. He imagines that it might be because they can assist each other as fellow crafters. Miyabi then focuses on his own work, using his enchanted fire to create an automatic temperature-controlled bathtub. He arranges them in an alternating pattern along the bath's perimeter to ensure a continuous supply of hot water. Miyabi jokes to himself that this design eliminates the need for countless trips to the well with a bucket. As he works, Weiss approaches Miyabi with a smile, asking if they have finally received permission to start. He moves in to look at Miyabi's work, as Miyabi asks him to be nice. considering the time and effort he's invested. Weiss chuckles heartily and examines the design. Weiss laughs loudly and then starts examining Miyabi's work, discovering that it is an automatic water production system. He asks him if the heat is managed entirely with enchantments. Miyabi, with a proud smile on his face, tells him that he has really good eyes as he correctly spotted it. Weiss is really impressed with what Miyabi has made, and he tells Miyabi how smart and creative he is. Miyabi adds that he has a model that actually works to show as an example if Weiss wants to see it. Weiss then suggests that Miyabi goes back to where they are supposed to work, as it's probably a better idea for him right now. As Miyabi starts to leave, he suddenly sees water spilling out of the bathtub, flooding the area around it. His face reflects an utter astonishment.